Hello, looks like we're live. Try to get in Destiny's voice call? What's going on?
Oh, wow. What is your back? I forget. But okay, go ahead.
Yeah, no, hey, listen, I'm keeping that in mind, all right? I'm just saying, like, having, like, people have mental breakdowns on there pretty consistently, I think is probably not the best thing as you're trying to go more mainstream. But maybe I'm
Fuck
wrong.
mainstream. I don't give a fuck about mainstream, and I will never do exclusively boring fuck content because people like you are like, don't you want to be on CNN?
Hey, listen,
no, I don't.
that's
I want
not
to
the
talk
issue.
to crazy people.
That's fair. Listen, I'm not saying you shouldn't talk to crazy people. In fact, I think that you doing your fucking crazy shit on Twitter is fine.
Mostly seafood, so I'm assuming he's eating eggs,
Fucking
fish,
loser.
maybe chicken or something.
Channel and then look to you for some sort of logical.
No
And
way,
Alex
really?
just refused to.
I don't think on a whim. I mean, this is not a guy who just.
Oh, I'm not sure if individual boycott really makes a difference. So that's another. Okay.
Acknowledge, like, there's some kind of issues happening. Like, having people that you acknowledge that Darius may or may not have, like, mental issues, right? Like, you've even personally brought this up before.
Yeah,
that, like,
he's
it's hard to
definitely-
know
he's
if
special.
he's memeing
Let me
or not,
take a
right?
look.
Yeah. What about him?
It's just a while ago, him and Sushia were having, like, huge problems. I don't know if they still are or not, but they're having huge problems on the last night of Destiny channel. And, like, it was just being played up for content pretty consistently. And it just felt very gross just watching it happen on live stream.
Okay, I'll maybe hop in a bit later. Or try to, maybe.
What is up? It's your boy Johnny Shreve. I have BB Promos to tell like it is. Welcome back to an episode of Coaching Up Subs. Yes, that's it. I'm here in Houston, Texas, here at Corrupted Strength. I'm gonna bring my athlete through a chest workout. That's one of his lagging muscle groups. So we're gonna train together today. I'm gonna show him exactly how we should be doing things. I'm gonna optimize his chest day. And hopefully you guys can apply it to the next time you guys do your chest workout. So without further ado, keep your eyes glued to the screen, your ears glued to the speakers, and let's learn some shit. My man Carlos is here, finally made it all the way from, he's in Texas too. Where are you in Texas?
Brownsville.
Roswell?
Brownsville.
Brownsville?
Brownsville. Yeah.
Brownsville. Brownsville. Sounds like a place for me. Okay, whatever.
What?
Have you used a fat bench like this before?
No.
You're gonna feel way stronger on it. The fatter the back of the bench, the more stability you have, like you feel your shoulders. So like you're not like balancing through this like small part here. You'll be able to lift a little more than you normally do. So just so you know, Carlos is we did classic physique for the second time last year, and he did very well. And we're gonna expand on his physique. He's tall. I mean, obviously way taller. How tall are you? 6'2". Yeah, 6'2". 6'2", great. Literally, like he's gonna hate it. Like he's gonna hate it. Let's have some fun. Good. I want you to come all the way in though. So I want you to
He's only doing 45s? And he's a classic physique competitor?
come like right to my hands. There you go. Yeah.
Like this
Yeah.
has
Right.
to
So
just
come
be a
come out the way you
warm-up,
were before.
right?
I want you to squeeze in, up, and squeeze. There you go. There you go. So I want you to feel this the entire time, up and squeeze. So practice this. There you go. Practice that activation. Second, we're gonna increase we're gonna go like.
60s.
Oh,
Oh, there we go. Johnny Shreve with the assisted reps. You should never do assisted reps, pretty much. Thank you for that 9014. Excellent spam as always. Appreciate the donation. Yeah. A wider bench can help you bench more. It's really only a thing when you're using a super narrow bench, though. The bench I was using before was 8.5 inches. If I moved to like a 10.5 or 11.5 inch bench, it would be the same as like using the fat pad that I have now, the Thompson. I think that one's, is that one 14? It's pretty wide. Let me see. Yeah, 14.5.
Topo the muffin to you, young Richard. Hope you have a great stream. Hope you have black cock in your mouth. Hope Finn does a big shit on your carpet. Hope Jasmine finally lets you have anal sex. Hope you finally bench 225. Hope your penis is nice and hard.
Well, thank you, Poopy Stinks. Yeah, I hope I can get to a 225 bench soon, too. Thanks for that donation, dude.
What's up?
What's up, buddy? You're live.
Nice.
Fuck.
Let me just mute the stream. Ah. How's it going?
Oh my god, these things are disgusting. How's it? I'm doing great. How you doing?
Well, pretty good. I was wondering, I'm in my first year at uni.
Mm-hmm.
I was wondering if you are into any rational choice theory.
Nope.
Weird. Okay. Let's start off some stupid, dumb bullshit from Scooby, 1961, the fitness channel. One of the OGs. So, Scooby made one of the dumbest videos on artificial sweeteners I've ever fucking seen, and what's especially stupid is he made this video in this day and age. So, he linked a number of studies, effects of artificial sweeteners on gut microbiota. This is all bullshit. This does not show any negative effect of artificial sweeteners. Yeah, they do change gut microbiota, but so does everything you eat. Artificial sweeteners may change your gut, and so this is a fucking article from the Scientific American. It's a blog article, basically. It isn't shit. Not a scientific source. This is just bullcrap that has been supported by Rhonda Patrick. Non-caloric artificial sweeteners and microbiome changes, effects of sweeteners on gut microbiota. This is nothing. So unless you can show actual human outcome data showing, okay, artificial sweeteners will kill you, or they make you go insane, or they make your poops turn a weird color, or what have you, all of this is just speculative crap.
Guten Morgen. In this video, we're going to...
Yeah, I remember when Scooby said you need to eat something like 50 kilograms of peanuts to build muscle as a vegan. That guy, oh my god, what an idiot.
talk about why people today are 10% fatter than those in the 80s, even when they exercise the same and have exactly the same nutrition.
Yeah, so the reason they're fatter is because they're eating more calories. It's impossible to have the exact same nutrition, which I'd imagine you're making the same food choices with the same macronutrient breakdown, same calories. It's impossible to be fatter. Kevin Hall actually just recently conducted a few very interesting experiments which found highly palatable foods are a huge factor for obesity. If you actually look at the same food products that were around in the 1980s versus now, the formulas have been changed so that they're much sweeter, much more savory, just much more palatable. They just taste better. So, companies are making better tasting food products that people are just going to eat more. That's why that seems to be one of the biggest factors for why obesity has risen since the 1980s.
Most people think that a great way to lose weight is to drink diet beverages rather than the full calorie sugar versions. In an ironic and cruel twist, it's quite possible that these zero-calorie beverages have been making people fatter rather than leaner.
That is the dumbest thing you could possibly say. So there's randomized trials on artificial sweetened beverages versus water and how many calories people consume during a day. If you give people ad libitum calorie intake, so they can eat as much as they want, one group is randomized to a group where they consume artificially sweetened beverages like Diet Coke. Another group is randomized to, the group that just consumes water. That's it. The group that consumes the artificial sweeteners eats less. They eat less, and they're less likely to gain weight versus water. So compared to water, artificially sweetened beverages seem to promote weight loss because they increase satiety, clearly. Artificial sweeteners are one of the most well-researched food additives as well. You can find an infinite amount of fucking prospective cohorts. And guess what? None of these prospective cohorts show a correlation between artificially sweetened beverages and obesity. So randomized trial data shows they do not cause weight gain. Prospective cohorts do not show they cause weight gain. And here's Scooby saying artificially sweetened beverages might cause weight gain. What would make him think that? Nothing. He's just being a fucking moron. I think what he's done is he listened to Rhonda Patrick, and maybe Huberman. I'm not sure if Huberman is promoting this bullshit, but him and Rhonda Patrick seem to kind of be buddies and promote the same bullshit at the same time. He may have gotten this from Huberman and Rhonda Patrick.
Let's look at why this experiment on American citizens may have been an epic failure. It turns out that artificial sweeteners mess with the bacterial balance in your intestines, killing off the good bacteria and fostering the growth of bad bacteria.
There's no evidence of that. There's only evidence of microbiome changes. There's no evidence that those changes are negative or clinically significant.
And it's possible this is what is causing people to gain weight using these beverages.
Yeah, so if you're going to propose a mechanism where there's some kind of metabolic change, so the bacteria in your gut has changed, and not your diet, that is a stupid route to go down, because when you're talking about massive changes in obesity, like 10%, that cannot be accounted for by those kinds of metabolic changes. When you look at things like people who produce like low thyroid hormone, or people who've been starving for a prolonged period of time and their metabolism is slower, it only makes like a really minor difference. You're talking about like a 2-3% difference in like how it affects your calories. Below 5%. So that, like, even if we were to grant that, okay, the change in your gut microbiome makes you more prone to store fat, that would be a minuscule fucking difference. And again, he has no fucking evidence for that whatsoever. None.
The second reason that artificial sweeteners might be making you fat is much simpler. Artificial sweeteners increase the desire to consume sweets.
They don't. So again, if you look at randomized trials, they're satiating. You're less likely to eat food if you consume artificial sweeteners because you've consumed something sweet and satisfying that fills your tummy a little.
In Asia, fruit is a dessert. Americans laugh at this. Why? Because to Americans...
No, in Asia, fruit is not a dessert. In certain countries like Japan, they have very expensive fruits that are often made for like a gift or a special occasion. A lot of the time it's like an executive gift. So if you wanted to give a gift to your boss or someone in a company or something, that's where you see like a lot of fruit, like really high-end expensive fruit being seen as kind of like a special treat. In places like China, where they don't have many tropical fruits, again, that's a situation where fruit is kind of seen as a special treat because they don't have many tropical fruits. Like mangoes don't grow in China. But if you look at any fucking country that has, natural native fruit production, tropical fruits, they eat them all the fucking time. Like, what is he talking about? That's just monumentally fucking stupid. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle. Let me see.
If you had the choice, would you rather be beaten?
Yeah, we'll see about that Earthling Ed debate. His debates are fucking horrible.
Mean to keep harping, but the name the Turtle Club, it's just a name. I think you're taking it a little bit too literally.
Turtle?
May I help you? Are you a member of the Turtle Club?
Well, not exactly.
Not exactly, but am I not turtly enough for the Turtle Club?
Yeah, I remember that movie. That was a bad movie.
Get on your mark. Get set.
Turtles are actually fucking fast. If you've ever seen a snapping turtle run, they're fast. Well, anyway, thanks for the donation, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle. Appreciate it.
Fruit is not sweet. When you consume diet soft drinks, which are sweet, and all kinds of cakes and cookies and candy that are sweet.
Okay, so now his fucking argument relies on not just artificial sweeteners, but now he's talking about cake and candy. Okay, so then what the fuck does this have to do with artificial sweeteners?
Fruit is not sweet. If you stop eating candy and artificial sweeteners, then fruit becomes a sweet treat, just like it is in Asia. Note that I've used tentative words like possible and suggest when talking about the role of artificial sweeteners in fat gain. The reason is because it's unclear what is causing the bacterial balance in people's intestines to be messed up. There's a bunch.
What do you mean by messed up? If you actually look at the scientific sources he cites, so look at, they don't use words like it destroys your gut microbiome, it messes up your gut microbiome, it negatively affects your gut microbiome. Here's what they say. Consumption of sugar-free foods is growing. Sweeteners that are frequently several 100,000 times sweeter than sucrose are being substituted. Non-nutritive sweeteners are considered safe. They can alter your gut microbiome. This review critically discusses the evidence supporting the effects of non-nutritive sweeteners, both synthetic and natural, and nutritive sweeteners like sugar alcohols, and composition of microbiota in the gut. So far, only saccharin and sucralose and stevia change the composition of gut microbiota. So, aspartame, which is probably the most common, doesn't change your gut microbiome. Xylitol, again, one of the most common, does not change your gut microbiome. So two of the most common non-nutritive sweeteners apparently do not have any effect on your gut microbiome. Two of the most common. So Diet Cokes, or like any diet sodas, and what else? What, I think Splenda? Isn't Splenda? No, Splenda's sucralose, isn't it? But when he's talking about artificially sweetened beverages specifically, they all use xylitol and aspartame. Very few of them use stevia. I know there's Zevia that uses stevia. So he literally linked a fucking source, largely debunking his fucking claim. By definition, a prebiotic is non-digestible food ingredient, but some polyols can be absorbed at least partially in the small intestine by passive diffusion. However, a number of them, such as isomalt, maltol, lactidol, and xylitol, can reach the large bowel and increase the number of bifidobacteria in humans. Further research on the effects of sweeteners on the composition is necessary. So, like, notice how they don't say, oh, it messes up your gut microbiome, it causes damage, this and that. No, they're only noting there are small changes. Who fucking cares? If it doesn't change health outcomes, who cares?
A bunch of other possibilities as well, which we're going to cover. The first is high fructose corn syrup. Another possible cause is the lack of fiber in modern diets. People consume way less fiber than they used to, and fiber is the potting soil of good bacteria. A third possible reason.
Well, fiber promotes less caloric consumption through other means. It's more filling. Like any kind of food that has fiber, it's just less calorically dense. So when you're eating high fiber foods, you're getting a large mass of food that isn't as calorically dense as another food, and thus it's just more satiating, just because of the mass of the food versus the calories consumed. That's the mechanism in which fiber reduces or helps to reduce, caloric consumption and promote weight loss. If you, if you just give people a fiber supplement, it does nothing for their weight loss. So,
other than artificial sweeteners that the biome is getting messed up is antibiotics. Agribusiness has used increasing amounts of antibiotics to increase yields of eggs, dairy, and meat. So it's quite possible that people are consuming these antibiotics secondhand from their animal sources, which is killing the good bacteria.
No. No. The only thing that antibiotic use in animal agriculture does is it increases the risk of zoonotic disease transmission. That's it. I haven't seen any evidence that you get a substantive amount of exposure to antibiotics through your food, and that can damage your gut microbiome. I've never seen any evidence of that. This is a joke.
In the biome. And the last possibility is the highly processed fats. Those have also been implicated in messing with the bacterial balance. So there's all kinds of...
What does he mean, highly processed fats? What the fuck does that mean?
Things other than artificial sweeteners that might be messing up our bacterial balance, which causes us to gain fat easier than we did in the 80s. So the only thing that is clear is that with the same exercise and diet, people today are 10%.
this is no different than me claiming, in the 1980s, there were less trannies. And the amount of trannies around has skyrocketed. But you know what? There's been an increase in artificial sweeteners. And artificial sweeteners change your gut microbiome. I wonder if artificial sweeteners cause trannyism because it changes your gut microbiome, which makes you a tranny. Like this is literally the same level of fucking logic. You can use the stupid bacteria argument to make assumptions about anything. He has no fucking evidence for these gut microbiome changes, being related to increasing obesity risk.
Fatter than they were in 1980. We don't understand the cause, but those are a number of possibilities. TLDR, if you want to lose
I think I can impersonate Scooby.
weight, avoid all sweets, either real or artificial. Avoid animal products that are not organic because they have antibiotics in them. Eat more fiber, meaning minimally processed or unprocessed foods like vegetables, grains, legumes. You know the sad thing? People who needed to watch this video stopped in the first 30 seconds when they could tell that I wasn't going to give them some quick fix solution to...
Yeah, they probably stopped because they knew you were going to say something stupid. Anybody who knows anything about artificial sweeteners.
Getting lean and ripped. My nutritional advice to people has not changed at all in the last 30 years. There are no...
Yeah, so that's either a sign that either means you were right and there's no need to change, or you're wrong and you refuse to change. That's not necessarily something to brag about. So just because your advice hasn't changed, that's not a sign that what you're saying is right. What means you're right is whether or not the evidence supports your claims or your recommendations, not that you haven't changed your opinion in 30 years.
No quick fixes to getting lean. You have to do some cardio, but 90% is nutrition. You have to eat minimally processed or unprocessed foods, lots of non-starchy vegetables, legumes, grains. I know I'm repeating myself, but it's important. Thanks for watching. Auf Wiedersehen.
That was a monumentally stupid fucking video. Alright, let's watch Earthling Ed, because why not?
Or have your throat cut.
Yeah, I would rather be beaten than killed.
Right. So, if beating an animal is wrong, then how is cutting their throat not wrong, considering...
I'm not saying so what.
Hey everyone, I hope you're all doing well. I'm just interrupting this video very
funny.
briefly, because whilst the arguments against veganism may not pass the sniff test, there's no reason why your armpits should never pass the sniff test again, and that's all thanks to Wild deodorant. Those of you who have seen my videos before may already be aware that I'm a huge fan of Wild. Basically, they produce sustainable vegan deodorants, so no animal testing, no animal products, and also no single-use plastic cartridges. To a flexible worldwide shipping, you can smell great wherever. 50% off new limited edition. They have over 7. Hi Kyle, it's a pleasure to meet you. My name is Ed, and today I'm at Texas State University with a banner that says, "Give me your best argument for not
This does not look like a guy who goes to university. Just gonna tell you right now.
being vegan." You've been waiting ages. I'm very thankful for that. So let me know what your response to the banner is.
Well, first off, I just need to know what your reasoning for being vegan is, because I have a lot of reasons why you should. Like, I could argue that economically. I could argue a lot of reasons. Health, to be vegan.
Oh, to be vegan.
My issue is I don't have a moral issue with it.
No, okay.
I don't see an issue.
Sure. I mean, look, I talk about the morals a lot, but, you can get to veganism in a number of ways. And if you think there's a health benefit, an economic benefit, maybe there's an environmental benefit, I don't know if you believe that or not, but if you recognize those benefits, then even if you and I don't reach commonality on the morality in the next 20 minutes or so, those things in and of themselves are still good motivations to make that change regardless.
Yeah.
But let's talk about the morality. That's what I'm here to do. What do you disagree with when it comes to the morality of veganism?
I don't have a moral issue with eating animals. I don't have a moral issue with killing it. I mean, there are certain animals I don't. I think that he could talk about where's the line.
Yeah.
And to me, the line is because what big part of it is I don't because I don't have to. If I had to, I love my dog.
Yeah.
I would eat my dog if I had to.
Oh, yeah.
But there are certain animals that we don't generally eat because we don't have to, and I feel like a big part of that is because
You don't have to eat any animals. What? This is just so retarded already.
of their level of intelligence, and that would include things like dolphins, monkeys, horses, dogs. I would almost argue octopi. I know in a lot of places that's...
Is it okay to eat a potato that has a green ring inside when you get it in half? It's right under the skin. You should kind of avoid that, but if you boil it well or cook it really well, it probably doesn't matter.
Octopuses?
I don't.
No. Is that because they're intelligent?
It's slimy. I have, but a big part of it is they are intelligent animals.
very
They
intelligent.
argue that their tentacles move independently because of the way that their brain works.
They're incredible, aren't they?
They're an enigma.
They're almost extraterrestrial. They're so incredible. Okay, so let's focus on that point. So obviously, there's culturally we've created different distinctions between different types of animals. Dogs who you have at home, who you love, but then the pigs and the cows. But the main criteria behind why you don't seem to consume the other animals that you don't consume seems to be because we don't have to, right? Was that what you said?
I don't because I don't have to, but I really don't want to because I wouldn't want to even if I had to because of the level of intelligence. Like my dog is stupid smart.
Yeah, right. But so are pigs and cows, of course. But that point aside, do we have to eat meat, dairy, and eggs? Like, do you have to eat it today if you go to the canteen or go to a restaurant or cook it at home? Is that something you have to do?
I mean, yes and no. I feel like that's almost loaded. Like, yes, you do eventually have to eat. And I feel like, I don't eat as much fruit or vegetables as I could because I do prefer animals, but I do.
You have to eat, but do you have to eat animals?
Necessarily no, but I don't have a problem with it.
No, you don't have a problem.
He literally said it's okay to eat animals or certain animals on the basis of needing to. Then he admits that we don't need to. Oh my god, everybody who fucking... Most people have never argued with a vegan in their fucking life. And, they just go into these debates like, veganism's so stupid. I'm just gonna come in here and explain to them we needs to do it, and bacon tastes good. And then they just completely shit the bed.
But the first thing to establish is whether or not it's a choice. And if we establish the...
Yeah. Yeah. That guy was an annoying fuck. There was this dipshit that I was arguing with when I was doing IRL activism with Anonymous for the Voiceless. Big fat guy, he started arguing with me that he can't go vegan because the frozen microwave pizzas that he gets at the store are more expensive when they're the vegan versions, and that's why he can't be vegan. He ended up I ended up just being like, okay, go fuck yourself. I'm done talking to you. He wouldn't leave. He just kept arguing with me, and I'm like, I'm fucking done. And then I challenged him to an MMA match, and then he threatened to call the police, and I'm like, because I challenged you to an MMA match, oh, that guy was so stupid. I eventually got him to leave, but he pissed me off so fucking bad.
Choice, that's the first thing which is important. You yourself sat down and said, look, health, economics, those are good arguments. And so you've already established that there isn't a necessity for us to consume animals, and potentially even think that there's a negative aspect to consuming some animal products as well from a health perspective. So
America has one of the worst cholesterol and obesity rates ever, specifically in Texas, actually specifically in San Antonio. But I don't have a moral obligation against or a problem eating.
Well, let's move on to that then. So we agree it's a choice, which is the first thing to agree. Are there limitations to what we should and shouldn't do to an animal? Are there some things that we could do to pigs, cows, chickens, and the like that we would say is immoral, that you would have a moral concern?
Absolutely. I would love to see every single cow in a green field up until the point and given a certain level of life until the point of becoming a product and...
Challenge Garland by the beans to an MMA match. I don't know what he'd say. he might be like, okay, fine, just come over to Texas, I'll fight you. Like, I have no idea what he'd fucking say. I'm not gonna bother just because, I'm obviously not gonna fight Garland. The guy's 55, and he, like, lives in Texas and shit. But, yeah, I wonder what he'd fucking say. I mentioned an arm wrestling match, and he didn't fucking say shit, so...
Being sold to eat or sold for leather or... You know, I do think everything deserves a certain level.
Why do they deserve it?
Not necessarily that they deserve it. I think it says more about us as people.
Sure.
Like, I can beat my dog. Mm-hmm. I don't beat my dog because I have a problem with it. A, it doesn't deserve it. B, I'm not that person.
Why don't they deserve it?
Just, it's a living thing. But to a certain point, like I understand where you're going, but to a certain point, to me, it has a purpose.
Yeah, what's that purpose?
Eventually to consume.
But what about the dog?
Oh, my dog? I mean, if I had to, I would. It's more. I would say a dog is more of a luxury and a companion.
Yeah, companion is the right word. It's a good word. Yeah. But the cows, okay, so we've created like an assigned purpose to them. We say this cow's purpose is to be killed and eaten. Yeah. But that doesn't mean anything. Like, I could breed dogs into existence and say, this dog's purpose is to be my sex toy, or this dog's purpose is to be my meat consumption. You know, and I use that example because it is ridiculous. But the point is the arbitrary assigning of purpose is also ridiculous because it doesn't mean anything. We're just saying, hey, this is what I'm here for. But it doesn't actually mean anything. It's just what we're saying.
I mean, I understand that, but at the same time, I mean, I think we eat certain animals as a group because of a level of intelligence that we've seen and observed and quantified. And
if that's true, then surely that still leads us to veganism, because out of all of the life forms we can consume, they're the least intelligent. I mean, kale is less intelligent than a cow. So if we are saying that it's moral to eat these animals because of their intelligence, then surely that leads us... I'm not saying I want to eat the least intelligent thing. I'm saying I'm choosing a meat product because it... To me, we were talking about being humane. Yeah. An animal with a higher level of intelligence, to kill it for the sake of meat, you would argue is less humane. But then plants are, of course, less aware as well. So I don't eat
my horse, I choose
but
to
I
eat
eat
this
my
one
cow.
because of this, as opposed to...
So that's the criteria for which you are assigning moral worth.
It's
But that
moral.
leads... Exactly.
I mean, I would...
So that leads us to veganism. That leads us to... Because plants are less aware and less intelligent and, of course, less sentient than the animals we do consume.
I feel like that's a little bit loaded, but it's just not...
We have another plants right. It always leads to plant rights. Oh my god.
Not the same thing. It's not on the same spectrum.
It's the logic you're using. So taking that logic that you're using to its fullest extent, that leads us to veganism anyway.
I don't have a great response for that. I like I said, I don't feel like they're on the same... Yes, if we're using intelligence as the argument, yeah. But what I'm willing to consume and what I feel I need to consume, I don't feel like it's the same category.
So
whether or not I don't have a great argument for that right now because I just kind of walked up and started talking to, you know.
Oh, so you thought you had a good argument, but now you realize you're fucking stupid.
We want to talk, but...
Yeah, I like that. I appreciate it. Yeah. Okay, so what is the justification then? If it's not intelligence, then what is the justification for eating the animals you do consume?
I'm sorry, I don't completely...
Because up until now, intelligence has mainly been the argument. But if it's not intelligence that's the reason...
I'm not saying... So intelligence isn't the reason why I eat animals. It's the reason I choose certain animals over other animals.
So why do you eat animals?
I just feel like it's what my body needs to consume. It's what I feel hungry for. It's what I like. And I'm not saying we've...
Earthling Ed has to start lifting weights so he can just, like, arm wrestle people and win and be like, okay, then, like...
We don't eat animals because we feel the need to. We eat animals because we were raised to eat animals. That has been discredited. That's 100% not a good argument. Yeah. So, yeah, I was raised to eat this way, and I'm sure y'all were too. I know he was. We talked about it. And you developed into eating this. Maybe one day that's in the cards for me. Right now, it's not.
So what is the justification now, then?
I don't have a problem with it.
But why not?
I don't. I do believe I believe as people that we are above animals, and I don't feel any. And some people.
Are you above a horse?
Yes.
So why not kill the horse then?
It's because I don't have to.
You don't have
if I had to, I would.
Okay, so we literally already established you don't have to kill any animal. He admitted to that, and now he's using the I have to, don't have to argument again. Like, oh my god.
But you don't have to kill the cows or chickens or pigs either.
I mean, to fulfill what I feel I need from my diet, I do.
Need or want?
No, that's fair.
At this point, Earthling Ed should comment on his weak little bitch anemic mustache.
No, that's fair.
Is it a need or a want?
For me, I feel like that line right there is pretty thin. Like I do feel like I need it. Maybe it is a want. Maybe you're right. But
Could you be plant-based? I mean, you sat down and said health was an argument for being plant-based. Yeah. So if health is an argument for being plant-based, then surely you don't need to eat animals. So it is a want.
Yeah, when yeehaw's your only argument. Seriously.
So how do you morally justify unnecessarily killing animals for a want and not a need?
I do feel like I mean, just to kind of loop back, I know I'm probably stumbling over myself right now, but I do feel like I need it. Like I feel like it is part of my diet, is part of who I am, and once again, I don't feel morally questioned in whether or not I can or can't eat an animal.
But whilst it is true that it's a part of your diet now and you were raised to do so, it doesn't need to be a part of your diet moving forward by the very admission that people change, and we've all changed here, of course. So it doesn't have to be moving forward. So whilst you may perceive it to be a need now, it's not actually a need. It is still that want. And when it comes to the moral justification for harming animals, there are limitations for what we can and can't do to animals. We've already kind of decided that.
I don't think you should beat or keep it in an environment in which it's...
If you had the choice, would you rather be beaten or have your throat cut? If I could do one or the other to you now, which would you choose?
I mean, you're also talking to a person with a higher level of cognizance and sentience.
That point aside, the experience is the experience for the animal. So if you had to choose between being beaten now...
It's like, this guy is just so dishonest. Okay, for one thing, I think animals can conceptualize, risk and levels of harm. So when they're confronted with one threat and another threat, they can tell which threat is worse. So just because they can't understand language or English, and then if you ask them, would you rather me beat your ass or would you rather me slit your throat? They're just going to stare at you and not know what you're fucking saying. But the idea that they can't understand one is worse than the other, fuck off.
Or having your throat cut, which would you choose?
Well, first, for an animal, at the end of it, the end state is death, period, end of story, right?
No, because the idea of beating an animal, you said that beating an animal is wrong, but you could beat an animal once and never beat them again. But that would still be wrong.
For animals that are being used for the sake of meat and produce.
We're going to, but I'm just trying to use the logic for a second.
I mean, if we're using it in just this case where the end state isn't the exact same as an animal, yeah, I would rather be beaten than killed.
Right. So if beating an animal is wrong, then how is cutting their throat not wrong, considering...
I'm not saying so what. I do feel that meat needs to be a part of my diet. I do. And
changing the fucking subject. Ed does really well when people aren't being terribly combative and they're kind of going along with the flow of the conversation that he wants. But this guy, he's clearly getting uncomfortable and he's starting to change the topic when he doesn't have an answer for certain things, and Ed just has to be a lot more just pushy and just keep asking them and tell them don't change the subject. What's your answer?
We can go back into that, whatever. But at the end of the day, and this is something that we do preach, especially among hunters, is as humanely as possible. Whether or not that looks gory to you, I understand. Mm-hmm. That's just, it's a way of life. It's full circle. But eventually, I do believe that when you do it, if you are going to consume this animal, you are to be respectful about it.
Is it respectful to unnecessarily take...
How many soybeans do you weigh? I'm talking soybeans. If I hear anything about pounds or kilograms, I'm done.
Well, Let's see. If one single soybean equates to 2 grams, then how many? What would that be? Maybe about 30,000 soybeans, roughly. It's my weight. Thanks for the donation, 789.
Take the life of an animal. Is that respect?
To me, I do feel like it's necessary for my body. So
Bada bean.
But see, now I feel like we're backtracking a
I
little
understand.
bit.
I'm backtracking a little bit.
If
I know that you got me in a little bit of a circle, but I do feel like it is a part of my it is a part of something I need to survive. It is. I'm personally, if you were to throw me in an environment, and say, eat one or the other, I don't feel like I could sustain myself the way I need to, based purely off plants in the wild. If you were to throw me right now,
but you're not in the wild.
He's literally on a fucking university campus and saying this, like, oh my god.
I agree in the wild, but you're not. You're in San Marcos.
Yeah, but...
So what? That's a big difference, right?
Once again,
It's a big difference. If I may, and I don't mean to seem rude, but it seems like you're changing your argument because there was a bit of a tight spot we got ourselves into. And it feels like now you're changing it from something that you agreed at the beginning wasn't true to now you're saying it because that seems to skirt around having to deal with the moral contention of what it is that you choose to do. But ultimately, you have already established that you don't need to. And you're not in the wild now. You're in San Marcos. You can go to a canteen, you can go to a restaurant, you can go to a supermarket. You can easily buy something that doesn't come from an animal just as easily as you can buy something that does come from an animal, because all the places you're going to go to, a supermarket, the canteen, have both options there in front of you. So you're not in the wild, you're here now, and you don't need to do it. And we've already established that if it's wrong to beat an animal, then it must be wrong to cut their throat, because we would rather just be beaten once and have our throat cut and be killed. So how can one of those things be wrong and not the other, when the thing that you're saying is right is actually more severe than the thing you're saying is wrong?
I guess you're right. I do want to do it. That is fair.
Yeah.
I don't need to do it. I could, even though I don't necessarily want to eat a head of lettuce. I could.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do want to, but also at the same time, I still don't feel any moral obligation not to.
But you feel a moral obligation not to beat an animal?
Yeah.
Why?
Because I think, along with an animal not deserving, I think that kind of shows you as a person.
So why do they deserve to have their throat cut? And what does it say about a person who pays for that?
Like I said, when you do it, when you feel the need to do it, and you feel the need, even though it's a want, okay. It is a want to eat an animal. It is a need to eat.
It's a want?
Yes.
Yeah.
But when you do it,
it's a want to eat the animal, but I needs to because I wants to. And that's why you're going to give me that booty. I want you, and I need you, and I'm going to have you. Now, we can either do this the easy way, or we can do this the hard way.
I do feel like you do deserve, like, I kill it. I don't just, when I go hunting, I don't needlessly kill as many deer as I want. I kill what I need. I don't eat any, or I don't kill more than I'm going to eat, and I do for myself.
You want, don't you? You want to eat that much deer, so you kill that many deer.
I want to eat a deer.
Yes, so you kill the amount that facilitates that want.
Yeah.
Yeah,
fair enough.
So, so now we're saying that it's okay to do these things to animals as long as we want to do them to animals.
I'm not articulating this the way I want. Like I said, I do want to eat an animal.
Yeah.
I need to eat.
But not an animal. You don't need to eat an animal.
Yeah.
So now we're doing all these things to animals just because we want to. So you think it's justified to do that?
Well, I don't have a problem eating animals, so yeah.
Well, you have a problem beating animals.
Yeah, I do.
So it's wrong to beat an animal.
I think when you are to use an animal as a source of sustenance, nutritionally, to sustain yourself, I think you owe that animal a due diligence to treat it a certain way within a certain parameter, right? So, like, I do have a problem with the way that we do keep a lot of livestock, cows, chickens, pigs. I do take a lot of fault with that. I don't think they deserve that. I do think if I'm going to eat an animal, I want it to be killed, butchered, and up until the point of that, its livelihood, I want it to be treated respectfully.
Sure, but at the same time, it's not respectful to unnecessarily harm someone. It wouldn't be respectful to beat the animal. So why is it respectful to then cut their throat? How does that constitute respect? That's it.
I don't have a good...
Do you think that does constitute respect?
I don't...
This is probably the best Earthling Ed debate I've ever seen, in terms of him actually not letting the other person lead the conversation. I think one of the reasons why he's doing so good here too is this guy isn't very combative. He's just not a very aggressive person who's trying to lead the conversation. Thanks for the gifted membership, Gigliardo. Appreciate it. But yeah, he's been doing a great job poking holes in this guy's arguments and just pointing out the huge contradictions in his moral beliefs.
What do you think? Just be honest. Is it respectful to unnecessarily cut their throat?
You should be respectful to a certain point, but like I said,
what point is that?
They deserve a certain level of treatment up until the point that you're going to consume them.
Why do they deserve to die then? If they deserve to be treated well, don't they deserve to not be killed unnecessarily?
Yeah, this dude's melting.
What do you think?
I don't know. I don't have something prepared for that. I really don't. I don't have a good answer or rebuttal.
No, that's okay. Well, maybe because maybe you do have an answer, but you don't want to say the answer because if you did, it would reveal something about your current situation.
No, not really, man. I don't feel like I've been caught in anything. Like, I understand what you're trying to lead me up into saying that I should be vegan. I just don't have a problem with...
No. But you can't say that it's respectful, can you? So you can't say that it's respectful, and you've also agreed that it's wrong to beat an animal. But then by virtue of that, it should be wrong to cut their throats. So what is it that you disagree with? Because we agree on everything. We agree. It's not respectful. It is unnecessary. We don't need to. It is cruel. Beating an animal is wrong, as is cutting their throat unnecessary. We agree on everything. You and I, we're not arguing against each other. We're agreeing with each other. It's just that we're hitting a brick wall where there's almost a refusal to acknowledge what maybe has been shown to us.
I hear what you were saying.
Thank you.
But I keep getting led to the same answer, not using the same equation.
Richard grade A under erect you nearly a decade ago. Remember when you lied about having 19.5 biceps? Oh, and by the way, Dorian writes a Dorian.
Where you say this equals this. Yeah. I understand this and this, but I don't think it equals...
So what is it that... So let's add it up, and then let's say where you equal. So we add up that we don't need to eat animals. We add up that there are some things we shouldn't do to animals, including beating them. And because cutting someone's throat is worse than beating them, as a consequence, cutting their throat would also be a moral concern. So how does that not get us to the same point? How do you go... You have to go.
Like it's a little... No, sorry.
Oh, no.
I have a couple. I have a few.
You've got a couple of minutes, amazing.
But I do feel like just inherently by the fact that there is at least even though in my point of view, as minimal violence as needed.
I feel like the average person is too utilitarian to subscribe to arbitrary moral arguments in relation to animal rights. Ultimately, being moral to humans has great societal benefits, but to an animal I don't grasp the importance. Plant-based is based toe.
No, the average human is not utilitarian. Your average person wouldn't be in favor of, say, stealing somebody's kidneys from another person to give to another person. That would be a utilitarian perspective where, oh, well, you don't need 2 kidneys. You can live just fine with one. So if somebody needs a kidney, it'd be fine to just find any random person off the street, kidnap them, steal their kidneys, and give it to the person who needs it. Most people wouldn't be in agreement with shit like that. When it comes to rapes of people in comas, again, the person who's getting raped in a coma will never experience the rape. They're unconscious. And the person who commits the rape gets to feel pleasure. So in a utilitarian perspective, that would be a net benefit. Like, most people don't have these positions. Most people do have a, I believe, like, threshold deontological belief, if you really press them on it. Being moral to humans has great societal benefits, but to an animal, I don't grasp the importance. Yeah, so what great societal benefits are there to, say, giving gay people rights? Not really many. What, like, only a few % of the population are gay? And you can hide it. So has society like improved, especially for non-gay people? Has society improved tremendously after we have given gay people rights? Not really. We don't really have to give any particular individual rights, right? Like what? There's only a few percentage of the population that's black. Why can't we just Holocaust them? What about Jews? Like these are small percentages of the population. So what great societal benefits would that have? Like nothing. None to the in-group. So if you're white and we started enslaving black people, that would only be a benefit to you if you were white. So is that a justification to enslave black people? So like if you're going to use this argument, well, it doesn't benefit me personally or whatever, whoever is considered in the in-group, that could justify slavery. That could justify a Holocaust. That could justify taking rights away from gay people. Because again, none of these things are really going to benefit the people who aren't part of that group and consider themselves in the club, in the sphere, who deserve rights. So stupid argument. If you cannot provide a symmetry breaker for why humans deserve rights and why animals don't deserve rights, then you have no argument. Claiming, well, it doesn't benefit me personally or those in the in-group, again, that could be used to justify slavery and a Holocaust. Thanks for the nation, Earth Real.
The fact that there's any violence at all is going to naturally lead you into that, and I just feel like that makes it a little bit... Like, I morally do not have a problem eating animals. I objectively do not need to eat meat. I do feel in my situation, the way I eat and the way I live my life, that I do. And because of that...
Earthling Ed should say, you do realize I'm a booty warrior.
It leads me to eating animals, and because it leads me to animals, I try to do as much as I can to be courteous to the animal.
And you're not doing as much as you can, because doing as much as you can would be not to do those things to animals. So it's not doing as much as you can.
I would love to continue.
I know.
I do have to go, though, man. I do.
And
this is awesome.
It has been fun, Kyle.
Thanks, buddy.
Thank you so much. Best of luck with your algebra exam. Something to think about, at least. Bye, Kyle.
Jesus. Did you see what that guy was wearing? Oh my god. What an embarrassment to just the human race. Fuck that guy. Well, Earthling Ed did pretty good in that debate. Let's see. Guess Destiny's stream's done. Oh well.
4 men were shot.
Let's see.
Said this before, but the reason that you live life, in my opinion, is for other people. Which sounds f***ed up to say, but without other people, I think life is pointless.
Something we keep a close eye on here is the crisis of young men in the U.S. It's probably one of the most
Whoa, this is fucking weird. Ab and Preach are like... They're always referencing extremely right-wing news sources. That's bizarre. So what, they've referenced like Sky News. I think they've shown some Fox News segments a few times. Now they have this guy, another like really far right-wing dude. Think on his program. Again, another one of these far right-wingers who've stated slavery was black people's fault. I think this guy on his program has unironically stated that.
charged topics that we discuss inevitably draws quite a bit of few toxic people in the discourse on all sides. But my biggest problem with the state of mainstream discourse is conflating toxicity with the idea that we don't have a serious problem. A stunning trove of new data from the Pew Research Group highlights just how big of a problem we have, one that soon could reach a total point of no return. The first is the rate of single young men versus single young women. 63%.
Yeah, so this really means nothing. I don't know how the data collection was done, but 63% of men might consider themselves single because a large percentage of them are casually dating. Whereas 34% of young women consider themselves single because women are less likely to casually date. That, like, let me see. Let me see the original source. By the way, If Abin Preach had an interest in discussing this fucking topic, why the fuck are they looking at secondary sources from a very right-wing fucking source from a complete fucking jackoff when they could just look up the original source and then there's a much lower risk of bias? Let me see. Pew Research, 63% of men single. Let me see if I can find it. Pew Research for Valentine's Day. 5 facts about single Americans. Roughly 6 in 10 young men report being single. Overall, 3 in 10 U.S. adults are single, meaning they're not married, living with a partner, or in a committed relationship. Committed relationship being the operative word. This share has not changed since the center asked this question in 2019. Some age groups have a higher share of singles than others. Adults are under 30 are the most likely group to be single, with roughly half, 47%, falling into this category. In contrast, 30 to 49-year-olds are the least likely to be single, 21%. About 3 in 10 adults aged 50 to 64 or 65 and older say they're single. When looking at age and gender together, 63% of men under age 30 describe themselves as single, compared to 34% of women in the same age group. Younger men are also far more likely than older men to be single, a pattern that is not as straightforward among women. Women age 18 to 29, for example, are just as likely as women 65 and older to report being single. The proportion of underpartnered adults also varies by race and ethnicity, education, attainment, and sexual orientation. For instance, 47% of black adults report being single, higher than the share among other racial and ethnic groups. So, this seems to only really be referring to committed romantic relationships, not like people who are casually dating. Let's see. 2, the majority of single adults are not interested in being struck or even grazed by Cupid's arrows. Among Americans who are single, the largest share, 57%, say they are not currently looking for a relationship or casual dates. Single adults who are not looking for a relationship or dates identified a variety of reasons as to why, but enjoying being single and having other priorities top the list. Even among adults who are single and looking, not everyone is interested in the same type of relationship. Roughly 1 in 5 single adults say they are open to either a committed relationship or casual dates, while 13% say they're only looking for a committed relationship. 7% are only looking for casual dates. In total, 42% of single Americans are looking for some kind of romance. Single men are more likely than their female counterparts to be searching for romantic experiences. Half of these men are looking for committed relationships and or casual dates, while 35% of single women say the same. So, yeah, there you go. Half of them are basically just looking for casual. They're just dating casually. Younger singles are also more likely than older singles to say they are currently looking for dates in a relationship. Some 57% unpartnered adults under 50 say this, compared with 36%. Percentage of single Americans who are looking for a relationship or casual dates is lower than in 2019, especially among men. Some 42% of single Americans say they're looking for a committed romantic relationship or casual dates, down from 49%. Yeah, whatever. Drop is largely driven by single men who are now 11 percentage points less likely than in 2019 to say they're looking for committed relationship or casual dates.
Do you think monogamy is cultural or evolutional? Sorry if dumb question, I feel like you'd have a good answer.
I'm not entirely sure. So, because in almost every culture, you do see monogamous relationships kind of being, you know, at least promoted. There may be a genetic basis to it. There is actually a, I think, nomadic African tribe that is polyamorous. Men often raise children who aren't their own, and men and women just casually have sex and romantic relationships, and there isn't like this, big concept of cheating. So there is at least one group of people I know of where they do not practice monogamy, and men are actually frequently raising children that aren't theirs, and they know it. It is also pretty typical for men, particularly wealthier, more successful men, to date many women. So I'm not entirely sure. Yeah, I'm really not sure if monogamy is like there's a genetic basis for it. I think there are some pressures to kind of ensure that your genes get passed on, like every species has that selective pressure to like pass on their genes. So there are benefits with monogamy when it comes to that, where, yeah, like if no other dude has access to the woman you're with, then you have a better ability to pass on your genes. So I think if anything, chances are men have a drive to be with as many women as they can, but they also want to ensure that no other men can be with those women. I can say that with some degree of certainty, but I don't know if monogamous relationships are kind of, like genetically baked into our DNA. Thanks for that donation, though, Caleb.
Of young men today between the ages of 18 to 29 report being single. That is compared to 34% of young women.
Okay, I just want to stop it right there because I remember when I first read this stat, I started laughing, and then I was talking with a homegirl, and she's like, "How's that possible?" And I was like, "It's easy because young women are dating older dudes." Despite all this talk about like, "Oh my God, it's so disgusting when older men go after young women." Did you not know that younger women actually like going after older men? And it's not even crazy. It's not even a weird thing. It makes perfect sense why. The reason why younger women go after older men is for comfort, security. That's it. We talk about how crazy everything is economically speaking. Rent's increasing, everything's more pricey, yet people still want to live a good quality of life. And guess what? Your average 22-year-old in college is not going to be able to give it to you. Yeah, he might have more in common with you to some degree, but the 32-year-old who got his own home, who's paying off his mortgage, got a full-time job, can take you on trips.
Yeah, this idea, I don't think doesn't really pan out. If you look at the majority of relationships across the age range, women generally prefer men that are roughly 3 years of age older than them, and that actually ends up being the average across the age range. where women generally date men who are only 3 years older.
Trips a couple times a year and is much more comfortable in his being because he's had more experience, is going to be way more attractive than a 22-year-old who's just trying to figure it out. I can tell you this, dating at 32 is the easiest thing ever in my life now.
Would you agree that Dorian Writer is superior to you?
Dating at 22 was a fucking struggle. Do you know how hard it is to try to invite a girl back to your mom's place or your rundown little apartment when I had one? Not the easiest. Not the easiest.
Is it just me or does Scooby both look and sound like a combination of Greg Doucette and Blaha? Poopy.
That is a very astute observation. Yeah, it kind of is. Especially his voice. But yeah, that's a very astute observation. Thanks for the donation, Adam.
Jesus, I sure as hell wasn't confident. What did I have to be confident about? Got very little money, got only a half decent job, and I'm still figuring out who the fuck I am. So of course, these women are gonna go for older men. So that's why I always laugh and be like, ew, so disgusting.
Honestly, older dudes just have more riz. Like, look, when you've have so much experience dating, you're just gonna be better talking with women. Like, I got way better talking to girls when I was in, like, my 20s compared to when I was in my teens. I don't think it's this, oh, well, the guy who's fucking 50 years old, yeah, he has a house, like, okay, like, get real. You're not gonna see many fucking girls in their 20s wanting to date guys in their 40s. Or 50s, that's just bullshit. Again, across the age range, women generally are just interested in guys who are only a few years older, like 3 years. And that happens to be dead on the average, 3 years of age older in most relationships. But yeah, it's just that older guys are probably just better at talking to girls. That's it.
Why would these older guys ever want to be with these younger women? Because these younger women are aggressively going after these older guys. And as a man, when you're being desired by a woman, it's actually pretty appealing. It feels good. I personally have a hard time with it because culturally, sometimes I feel like there's a bit of a disconnect in terms of life goals. What do you think about this stat and this number?
He's saying this while being like a fucking...
Dorian Writer owns your...
Go, fuck you. He's saying this while being a huge fucking YouTuber. Like, bro, most of the fucking women who end up watching his channel and knowing of him and shit, like, they're gonna be in their late teens, maybe mid-teens even. Like, mid to late teens, like, some early 20s, and it's like, bruh. Like, he's saying this from the perspective of a fucking YouTuber.
I agree. It's like, ew. Have you been out? Do you get out of your house? Do you go online? Under what rock do you live? I don't see what you don't see. I don't get it. Like, do you even go out? Do you hear people talk?
Yeah, so if you look at the initial, like, if you actually look at the original source, the Pew Research source, there are more men who are interested in casually dating versus women. So that accounts for a huge proportion of that 63%.
Do you see people at concerts? The people that buy concert tickets is women. The people that scream at concerts, women. People that try to go backstage for men performers or women performers, women.
Women are big time consumers. They like to live and experience things, and that shit costs money.
If you talk about your typical groupie, it's not a man, it's a woman. Talk about comedy. All my female comedian colleagues do not have the same relationship with women that we do, men comedians. Motherfuckers trying to find out where we stay at when we gonna perform next in their city. Not the woman.
Met this amazing girl, but she's not vegan. I want to convince her without making her not want to be vegan or leave. Any advice? Yeah, tell her you think eating meat is fucking disgusting and only a piece of shit would pay for animals to be tortured and killed. And you find the thought of kissing her after she eats a fucking chicken sandwich disgusting. That should work. That's what I would do.
It's not so much, but it's always women. Oftentimes women's. Yeah, there's some men here and there. The majority?
Yeah.
And no matter what performer, that's the thing. For comedy, it's what I noticed. But then if you talk about music, the groupies, the term groupie is female to me.
Most of the time.
Most of the time it is. Or very feminine.
Yeah. I'll say this. I think this has like a much larger effect because one of the other stats in the Pew Research said something like, I think like 52% are not even interested in trying or care to try. And when you look at some of the reasons why, they feel like it's too expensive, they feel like they're not good matches, they feel like society's not good for them, whatever. When you look at the MGTOW movement, I remember when I was talking about this maybe 7 years ago, everyone thought it was a fucking meme. And come to today, now it's becoming more and more where, in fact, for young men, it's the majority. Majority of them. Not that they've subscribed to MGTOW or going their way, but like they've just checked out of dating. And it's happening more and more. Men have checked out of college, men have checked out of dating.
That's not what the Pew Research data showed. The majority of that 63% of men who aren't in a relationship, half of them were interested in casually dating. And the other half either wanted, were seeking, serious romantic relationships, or they're happy being single. And then, yeah, like a smaller percentage were just not dating because they're fucking incels or some shit, and they don't think they can, like, ask a girl out and crap. But the majority of them weren't fucking pathetic losers.
And what ends up happening is right now, it doesn't seem like such a big problem, but there are only so many older men. And a lot of these older men are married to women their own age. And so for the younger women who want to get with these guys, they're not always going to be available. So you're going to have a sexless generation at some point, or a large chunk of it being without companionship, without any kind of intimate relationship. And I'm sorry, but anybody who's been able to benefit from the upsides of being in a relationship, the proximity to being someone, to being touched by someone you love, to have people you can actually share that stuff with every day in a close relationship, you understand its benefits tremendously. If you go through life, your entire life without it, you're missing out on one of the biggest parts of the human experience. I don't care what nobody fucking says about, oh my God, being single is so much less stress. Yeah, it's also less happiness. I'm not talking about staying some kind of fucking shitty abuse. I'm not talking about those garbage relationships. Preach, you could speak to this. The idea of being single in comparison to where you at.
I don't look too promising. Just this world is not made to be single. The world, the way it's made is not, if you live in a big city, or even a city at all,
go for it.
Everything is going to be like all the price of everything is much more expensive. So 2 income is better than 1. I was never good at math, but this math I understand. 2 income is better than 1. At the end of the day, it is what it is. And with the chores and everything that you have to do around the house or stuff like that, it's better to be 2. It's better to be 2. It takes 2 to tango. And yeah. The everything is constructed the way the banks are working. If you want to adopt a child, alone is going to be a big mess. It's going to be rough, tiring, exhausting. 2, way better. Yeah, definitely. When you grow up and you look at your parents and you think it's your parents and you're like, pfft. Sometimes you're like, y'all motherfuckers should split. Y'all motherfuckers don't love each other. And I'm not necessarily talking about my parents, but I've seen that happen in a lot of families. Y'all motherfuckers don't love each other. And then you wonder why. Why they stay together? I understand now. Oh, now that I'm an adult, I get it now. When you get the bills and you got the kids and you're like, I could split. But let me stick on together because I'd rather stay together and be here and not be as happy. It's better be with someone and not happy than be with someone with nobody and be miserable.
Really?
No, not really. But that's how they think, and I understand why they would think like that.
Okay.
Just because of the weight.
$10.
No deal. Not when you're mentioning he who shall not be named. Thanks for that
The
donation.
bills and the weight of and the burden of life. I don't agree. I want my peace of mind, but the bills is a lot.
Listen, I think it's bad to have this conversation and always think, well, it's better than having a bad relationship. Sure, but it's not better than having a good relationship.
Let's say
you know what I mean? Like, we shouldn't always argue by the worst standard possible. And I think that's what a lot of people do in this because they've had some bad relationships. And maybe there's things about yourself that you need to fix. Maybe your selection process is trash. I refuse to believe that most of the people out there are bad people. I refuse to believe that most of the people out there were not in some ways good for you. Listen, if you're constantly having bad relationships, at some point you gotta look at yourself and be like, maybe I'm the reason this is all fucking up. Right. And if you want to give up, you give up. But you have to understand, for society as a whole, when so many people are checking out, not because they've tried and failed, but because they can't have a chance, or they feel like they're not good enough, or they feel priced out, which is what a lot of people say. Like, if you don't have a college degree, these women are not checking for you. They want to be with dudes who are college educated a lot of the times. This is not me sitting here saying, women, your standards are fucked up for wanting to be with a college student. It's not even that, because I could understand why. Maybe college helps you to understand, like, he's got the same values. He's going to be career oriented. He's been able to make good investments, whatever. If that you want to make that, it's not an unreasonable criteria. My point is, I think it's a dark place we're heading towards. That's what I'm getting at. And I question what this is going to look like 20 or 30 years.
The weird apocalyptic prophecies they come up with because of a fucking Pew Research poll. Really weird. Just watch your Garland debate. Absolutely wrecked him. The Crucible's comment section's toxic sludge. Yeah, dude, no matter how bad you wreck somebody on there, they'll always be like, man, vegan gains got destroyed. Like, oh my God.
From now. You know, during the pandemic, we had so many people who just went on Twitch every day and spent all their days gaming and doing all this other stuff, and that's kind of carried over, and there's people who get no social interaction. I want y'all to think about what that's going to do to the psyche of people 20, 15 years from now when they're that detached from human connection. That's what I worry about.
There's a big ass company that's going to take that's
Nigga 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 Richard Burgess and Bichard Burgess and Richard Burgess and Bichard Burgess, anal, sex, dick, poop, cock, fuck, fucking shit, gimp cunt 7,000,777 octillion 777 septillion 777 sextillion 777 quintillion 777 quadrillion 777 trillion 777 billion 777 million 777,777.
Thank you for that wonderful poem. Appreciate the donation, Poopy Stinks.
I'm going to take advantage of that, and I'm going to create some AI. And the loop is going to be deadly.
Hey, man. It's going to be some wild times up ahead. But I just wanted to talk.
Nonsense. All right. Cop City. So, this is a really fucking interesting story. A lot of fucking racism in the story. Crazy amounts.
Joining me now, Matthew Johnson. He is the interim director of Beloved Community Ministries down in the Atlanta area. Matthew, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me, Sam.
Why don't we start just with, for folks who are just, I think, hearing about Cop City, explain to us what Cop City is. This has been something that has basically been in the works for about 2.5 years, if I'm not mistaken, maybe more than that. But give us a sense of what Cop City hopes to be, I guess.
Right. This was passed through in a middle of the night deal that even our city council did not know about. In the early spring of 2021. Only because of the work of activists was this brought to the fore. This was done by Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms, while our current mayor, Andre Dickens, was still on the city council. That it was approved to use this land that had been a part of the city's master plan for parks in 2017 to instead be used as what would be the largest militarized police training facility in the country. The two largest police departments in the United States are the LAPD and the NYPD. This will be 3 times the size of the LAPD's training facility. It will be 4 times the size of NYPD's training facility.
What sense does that make? So this training facility in fucking Georgia that they were initially going to use to build a park on, they're going to have a training facility that's 3 times larger than the largest fucking police department's training facility. So, like, it doesn't make sense.
Meanwhile, Atlanta has about the 19th largest police force in the country. Atlanta is already the most surveilled city in the United States since Operation Shield was implemented in 2017, which was also done by the Atlanta Police Foundation. This cannot be separated from the fact that Atlanta is the largest or the most Black large metropolitan area in the United States.
Yeah, what a coincidence. The most Black city in the United States is also going to get the largest fucking police training facility so that they can further militarize the police department.
States, where we also hold the record for the largest racial income disparity. For every $1 of the median household income for Black families, it is $3 for the white median household income. Despite the fact that Atlanta is touted as some type of Black Mecca, African Americans have a 5% chance of making it outside of poverty in the Atlanta area. What we're actually seeing is a Black political class and a Black upper class that has continually sold out the...
Frank ranting about evil banks.
I mean, this is definitely not the right street in New York to be talking about financial stuff. I could just drive another 5 minutes down to Wall Street, but it's like Sunday night and I'm tired and that's further from home, so we're staying here. We're in New York. It's financy, right? Ish. Anyway, I'm sure most of you have heard that Silicon Valley Bank took a dump last week, aka the bank failed, completely crashed its stock really bad. And I just heard a few hours ago that 2 additional banks have crashed. Silvergate Bank and Signature Bank. Now, originally I was just planning on talking about Silicon Valley Bank, and by the time Monday rolls around, when you guys are seeing this video, who knows, 3 more banks might have crashed because I'm filming this Sunday night. So originally I was just going to talk about the Silicon Valley Bank stuff. Now, what happened was, and keep in mind, by no means is this what actually happened. This is what they told us in the news, what we have been told. No, we don't know what's actually going on, behind closed doors. So Silicon Valley Bank announces that they had to sell some securities, and also were going to sell additional shares of its stock because they weren't liquid enough. But before they announced that, the big people, the CEO, the major shareholders sold millions and millions of dollars worth of stock weeks before this announcement. And hours before the bank actually went down, a lot of employees got very, very large bonuses. So this announcement was planned and caused a bank run. And a bank run is when basically all of the bank's clients go to it and try to withdraw their money. So, whether you bank at Chase or Citibank, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, imagine that, Bank of America stock is crashing and all that stuff, and you run to the bank to take out your money. That's what happened with this bank, Silicon Valley Bank, which was known for like tech companies, startups, and 97% of them allegedly had over $250,000 deposited, which is apparently important because the FDIC only insures up to $250,000. So, I mean, that's a whole debacle, and, you know, whether or not that's true, it's hard to say, but most people did not get their money out in time because Silicon Valley Bank was not liquid. You know, banks don't just hold all of your money. They invest it and try to make money back based on their usual active operating kind of value. So the bank knows how much money it needs to have in it in order to satisfy all of the client's needs. So, you know, if there's $200 billion in the bank and they only need $10 billion liquid, they're not going to keep $200 billion. They're going to invest $190 billion into other stuff. However, all the clients saw this and freaked out and were advised to withdraw their money. Silicon Valley Bank didn't have the money. That caused the stock to dump like 80%, and it actually got shut down by the federal government. And they actually took over Silicon Valley Bank. Now, someone was supposed to...
He keeps saying silicone.
...buy the bank. They were trying to sell it last week, but no one took the offer.
Yeah, he even put it in the fucking... He literally even put it in the title. He doesn't understand that, like, it's silicon, not silicone. Oh my god. Even, like, I didn't even realize it's in the title.
And Silicon Valley Bank said that they have their money in government bonds. And that means that they supposedly bought bonds a few years ago with a pretty low interest rate, and they're supposed to get their money back in a few years. However, they didn't have the money now to pay back their clients. Now, who believes that, you know? To me, that was the biggest lie in this whole thing. What's the likelihood that Silicon Valley Bank actually had government bonds and no one was willing to buy them out? I don't think they're telling the truth. I think that Silicon Valley Bank, big tech stuff, big crypto stuff, I think they had some volatile assets and they're not telling the truth. You know, could they have been invested in crypto? And that's getting to the bigger picture of what I think this is about, because...
Well, yeah, they did invest in crypto.
The crypto market seems to be steady now. Bitcoin hasn't dumped in a while. Nothing has dumped in a while besides the FTX debacle. I think that no one's buying crypto. And I've said it for like years now. I think crypto is a pyramid scheme. So I think it's been long enough that no one...
He doesn't know what a pyramid scheme is.
...has been buying crypto, and all of these big banks are invested in crypto, that they have to dump them and lie about it. So I think a crypto crash, if I had to bet, is coming somewhat soon. And any bet, I mean...
Well, it already happened. What the fuck is he talking about?
Signature Bank and Silvergate Bank, the other two banks that just dumped, were heavily affiliated with crypto lending. So that reinforces what I thought about Silicon Valley Bank. I don't think they had government bonds. That's what they told people. There's no proof of it. And there's multiple news articles stating that Silicon Valley Bank had government bonds, but that doesn't seem to be the truth, because I would assume that another bank would have bought them if that was the truth. Even if they took a 5 or 10% loss, they could have still covered all of their clients' deposits. So look, I mean, this is just my hypothesis, but the stories don't add up, and we know based on the past that there's a lot of greedy people that like stealing other people's money. So someone is getting screwed over and someone's taking their money. That's it. The simple point of what's going on here is someone is stealing someone else's money. Now, whether that's, you know, the elite of the elite stealing money.
Who wins, you or Pizza Man, in a cage match?
初からまでね、膝記事を回すこと以外にほぼデータがなかったんですが、ただもんじゃないですね。結構ね、ルイズ・プリモ選手の情報って意外と少ないですよね。少ないんですよ。SNS でね、このピザ生地を回しながら戦う姿の動画がですね、めちゃくちゃバズったんですが、そのバズった以上の情報が入ってこないんですよね。そうなんです。今度はピザ生地。
Oh man, I don't know, man. Pizza Man has got some moves that are going to be hard to counter, especially with that dough.
Saying giving animal rights doesn't give humans greater societal benefits, so therefore going vegan is not important. Is this the same as the social contract theory for humans? If so, then using this logic you could justify slavery for minorities?
I don't know if it's the same as, like, you know, that Destiny debate I got into about social contract, but, yeah, like, the problem is what he's basically saying is, as like, you can justify taking away rights from any fucking group of people. So long as you're in the in group and not the out group, supposedly there's no incentive for you to ever grant anybody rights. So yeah, if you're going to say there's no incentive to give animals rights, okay, well, I guess there's no incentive to give black people rights either. Thanks for the donation though, SarsCov. Yeah, I don't know. I think that dough he has, where he can use it to blind you, be pretty hard to defeat the pizza man. Thanks for the donation though, PP.
Money from lower level elite, whether that's the elite stealing money from small businesses or startups or clients. Point is, a lot of money is getting stolen, and the people at the top are trying to alleviate their damages. As we said earlier, the CEO cashed out millions of dollars of stock beforehand. All of these other crypto-related banks are going down. So I think the truth is going to come out about the crypto Ponzi scheme sooner or later. You know, with the economy being really, really bad and no one investing, no one spending money, you know, Bitcoin and all those cryptocurrencies rely on pump and dump. It's similar to the stock market, but it's a lot more volatile and reactionary and not as assured. So I think what it really is over the past year and a half, crypto hasn't been able to pump and dump anymore, and these elite people, these
there already has been a crypto crash. I don't know why
society members that are still holding crypto, they can't even cash out. That's the big problem. No one's buying crypto at the current price, and they don't want to dump it. They have too much money in the game, and they can't even cash out. I bet some of them can't even break even. So what they're doing is they're trying to hold on to their money in their investments in crypto and wait and hope that people are going to reinvest. But now that people aren't reinvesting, they have to cause these crazy crashes. So whether it's about crypto or Bitcoin or whatever, whether I'm right or wrong, something fishy is going on. And you know, people also said that Jim Cramer, I think he's on NBC, he talks about stocks, and people always joke, like, do the opposite of what he says. About a month ago, he actually suggested people buy Silicon Valley Bank stock. So with his platform, you're assuming that people invested millions and millions of dollars into Silicon Valley Bank stock so that the crooks that control NBC could cash out their own money. I mean, the bigger picture, which I'm sure you guys know, is, you know, there's a small group of people that control most of the wealth of the masses. And this is just another scheme that goes along with what they've been doing for thousands and thousands and thousands of years.
Yes, the interdimensional lizard aliens who tricked us into believing the Earth is round. Yes, those people.
It's just something that people are unfamiliar with. So my advice to you, if you want to get really rich, you marry a nice, short, handsome Italian guy. You have a beautiful daughter, right? Beautiful daughter. And you get your beautiful daughter to sleep with the CEOs of these companies, and you find out when these ugly fucking cocksuckers are going to cash out. That's how you get fucking rich. Unless it's just blind luck, which doesn't really happen. It's all insider trading. It's all nonsense, guys. They're not telling us the truth about what's really going on. And I thought I had a reasonable hypothesis and grasp of how this was going to blow up just based on the Silicon Valley Bank stuff. But ever since finding out the other two banks crashed as well, who knows? People are saying that, you know, Silicon Valley Bank is going... Oh, the biggest thing I haven't spoken about yet is how many people lost their money. There was hundreds of billions of dollars in Silicon Valley Bank that these companies cannot get or recuperate. And the FDIC only covers $250K. So now, what's going to happen? If I was one of these companies, I would immediately... I mean, they would have to file a federal lawsuit on Monday and get an injunction on Tuesday to see the books of Silicon Valley Bank and find out what the fuck is actually going on. That's what I would do. I would find out if Silicon Valley Bank actually has treasury bonds or whatever bonds they said they bought. And then, okay, then that would be a little more comforting because you would know that.
Like, why is he even talking about this? He thinks it's called Silicon Valley Bank. Like, Jordan donated $2. Out of all the fitness YouTubers, I feel like Lane Norton is relatively objective. For example, he made a good vid on soy debunking the testosterone bullshit. What do you think? In the last maybe year, he has gotten much better than he used to be. Way, way better than he used to be. So, yeah, he's not fucking saying stupid shit anymore. Like, you know, Big Macs are just as healthy as apples. Cholesterol doesn't really matter, you know, crap like that. His LDL was so high, dude. It was in the, like, fucking 200s, I think. But, yeah, he's gotten better. So he's not bad, for sure. Right now, anyway. Thanks for the donation, though, Jordan.
The government can step in and sell those, and people will eventually get their money back. But I guess that's the big if. You know, why would they lie about having bonds?
Able to donate $2. Is Frank a paranoid schizophrenic? He certainly acts like it. I wouldn't be surprised if later in life he does end up developing it, because he seems to have a lot of weird paranoid delusions.
Working on Wall Street. I don't like stealing people's money. So thank you guys for joining me. Hopefully you enjoyed a little change of scenery.
Yeah, Silicon Valley Bank.
Interests of the Black working class for their own benefit. And also, the thing to note is that Atlanta holds essentially, so Georgia holds what I think the ranking of 6 for Fortune 500 companies, and you have many more moving in. You've probably heard about it more so in rap songs than anything else. Bankhead Highway is having 90 acres taken out to be Microsoft's headquarters. Meanwhile, there's no affordable housing, and people are being continually pushed out. So what we're seeing is that this is a confluence of factors that are probably far more impactful on the crime rate than anything.
So basically, a lot of like Georgia's getting more wealthy with a lot of large tech companies moving in. It's becoming harder and harder to live there because cost of living is going up. They've had an increasing crime rate. And now, because there's a elite upper class there, they want to heavily militarize the police so that they can basically just abuse poor people.
Anything else.
Poor black
had
people,
a raising murder
way.
rate, although over the past 3 years, there's been a $32 million increase in the police budget. So it's not really keeping us safer, but it's really clearly protecting private interests. And so now let's bring this all together, right? So now there was this idea to build the militarized police training facility that we call Cop City that will be built in an area that's 80% Black, that already has significant flooding issues. Sewage from the Atlanta DeKalb water system floods the South River every time there's a 1/10 of an inch of rain.
Jesus.
And the Clean Water Act has an exemption where they don't have any timeline they're held to clean this water supply. In South DeKalb, where it's 80%. However, North DeKalb, they're held to actual standards of when they have to clean the water.
Wow.
This is already being litigated.
So, in the rich part of town, they have to clean the water. In the poor part of town, nobody cares.
Meanwhile, we're about to have more development, more areas paved, so more flooded, in a place that's already had a significantly poisoned water area, in a place that was the site of the Atlanta prison farm that used to be a plantation, right, before Native Americans were forcibly pushed off of the land.
Right.
So what we have is an exploitation of land at the expense of Black people that will further police violence. So it's a confluence of whether you're looking at environmental racism, police brutality. I mean, whether you're looking at, the racial wealth inequality, it's all happening right here. And you're having a forest movement and a forest protection movement right next to a major city, which essentially never happens.
Right.
So that's why this thing is blowing up. Sorry, I might have been running.
No. I mean, I think this is important context, because when we talk about why you would build a nearly 400-acre facility that it purports to create its own urban environment where you're literally training officers, cops, for warfare. When you hear the context in terms of the wealth inequality and the dispossession of political power that the Black community is dealing with in Atlanta, it's not that far of a leap to understand why the city will be looking to create essentially a force.
Yeah, rather than actually fixing the problem, they're just going to help protect the status quo and heavily militarize the police so that if there's ever any kind of uprising or protest, the police can just fucking shoot and kill all the fucking protesters.
Force to control people in an urban environment. I mean, there's you really have two ways, I guess. Maybe there's more, but then they're not necessarily, and I don't think that they're as viable of dealing with this type of inequality, this level of poverty in instances, and this lack of a mobility. One is to address those issues directly. The other is to make sure that you've created some type of mechanism to control people who have to deal with that inequality. And it seems they've gone for the latter. And all right, so let's talk about, we are recording on Friday. The governor of Georgia has just declared a state of emergency to bring in 1,000 National Guardsmen, presumably to do what ultimately they're going to be training a bunch of police to do, which is to control people in the community and prevent them from having any type of say in this. Like you said, 17 hours of debate and suddenly 400 acres that were designated for a more community-oriented purposes turn into a police training facility. And this is also coming in the wake of the police killing of someone who went by the name of Tortuguita. Can you give us, well, before we get there, tell us what the community's been doing. I know that the beloved of community ministries have been involved in this, that the community movement builders have been involved in this, that there's been a coalition to form Stop Cop City, and in conjunction with Defend Atlanta Force. Tell us about the resistance that has grown up over the past almost 2 years now to this plan.
Well, yes. One thing that I always like to distinguish about, for instance, Stop Cop City or Defend the Atlanta Forest, it's often thought of as an organization in the media. And I think that's very important for us to disambiguate, because it's more so a political stance or a movement, right? So it would be akin to saying that somebody is a member of pro-choice, right?
Right.
It's more so like it's like we're all a part of this effort to stop Cop City and defend the Atlanta Forest. And that's important because the way in which the police and federal agents and also the GBI have been moving has been threatening anybody that's associated with the movement as a part of a domestic terrorist network, right? So it's very important to note that this is not an organization, because they're trying to essentially create connections that aren't there. This has been a decentralized and autonomous movement. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, no, to be clear, I just want people to understand that that is not a theoretical situation. There have been 18 people who have been now charged with being domestic terrorists for supposedly belonging to a so-called domestic terrorist group, when in fact what we're talking about is really just people who are on a side of an issue that exists.
Yeah, you can't make this stuff up. Good old Georgia. Nevertheless, here we are. And what's happening now is I think that they've been losing in a lot of ways, and they're starting to show it. Just to give a little bit of context, this has been a decentralized and autonomous movement from the very beginning. Now, mind you, before any of this has happened,
Tommy Sotomayor is back on YouTube hating black women. Would you want to join in on the hate?
That since you didn't have no hair on your ball sacks, you were still being told, man, if we tell a kid, be a man. This little boy done skinned his whole kneecap off.
Yep.
Get up, be a man.
Rate this singing 1 to 10.
I will rate that in just a second. Thanks.
He's
for
not, he's 3. Yep. But we're still asking him to be a man, and we tell him that what a man's job is to be hurt, to be harmed, and to act like it doesn't hurt or harm. You hear people talk to a man, you're emotional, as if a man has no emotions, which makes no sense. And how many times have men had women get mad at them because they're not showing enough emotion? So I'm a bitch if I show emotion, but then when I don't show any emotion, you call me unfeeling, and I'm not in tune with your feelings, and I need to get in touch with my own. And I'm thinking, women, y'all are really
not emotionally intelligent.
Right, because what it is women have this thing, and I truly believe it's in them to push over and to test limits on everything. And if they can find a man, if a woman's doing you bad, a lot of it's you, because she gravitated towards somebody that can push them over, and apparently you gravitated towards somebody that was going to push you over. Because at the first sign of these things, you would have walked away, but you didn't. So is it really this person's doing you bad, or is this what turns you on like it turns them on? Some of them want to use you. Some of them want to get used by you. Some of them want to abuse you. Some of them want to abuse you.
Yeah, I don't know about that. Don't want to hate on black women like Tony does. Thanks, Dick Jones.
Yeah.
10 out of 10. That was some of the most beautiful angelic singing I've ever heard. Thanks for the donation, PP.
we have canvassed the neighborhood. We have been petitioning elected officials in DeKalb County, unincorporated DeKalb, where this land actually is, as well as in the city of Atlanta. There was 17 hours, a record amount of public comment, where 70% of it was against Cop City. However, it was almost an inverse correlation with the votes of the city council, where 10 out of 14, about 70%, voted for Cop City. This goes back to a Princeton study in 2016 that established that there's virtually no correlation between public opinion and legislation. In fact, that study also found that about 90% of us have virtually no say in our government, right? So we're looking at, once again, these issues of wealth and influence in the halls of power.
Yeah, it's an oligarchy, not a democracy.
So we've been going through, all of these channels. People have been doing tons of protests, marches, everything like that. And then perhaps there's been a little bit of trickery. right? You've
Jordan Donate Tellers, I know you hate David Icke, but you got to admit the speech on animal rights he gave in 1980s is really good. Let me see. Might just skip through this.
In a green cabinet. What we're talking about here, surely.
What? Yeah.
Tonight, the core of what we're discussing is values. That's what it's about. Human values. Martin Luther King talked about power without compassion, might without morality, and strength without sight. They are the values that allow our societies to abuse animals. But they are the values also that allow our societies to abuse people and to abuse the planet as well in the name of economics. You cannot divorce the values that abuse animals and those that abuse people and abuse the planet, for they are the same values. It was Henry Salt, a great social reformer and
It's interesting. Is David Icke vegan or vegetarian? Is he vegan? That's really weird. Okay, I didn't know he made an animal rights speech. Thanks for the nation, Jordan. SARS-CoV, don't need to tell others. Heard Sam Harris bring up social contract theory for not going vegan. That's why I asked, but the U.S. basically has an American contract citizens must abide to, so we could, in theory, add animal rights and make anything not vegan illegal. Bad argument. What do you mean, American contract? There are human rights that are codified into law. There just needs to be more animal rights codified into law. Thanks for the donation, SARS-CoV. Dad donated $2. Let me see. Yes, seeing this. Capybaras are interesting animals. Thanks, Dad.
I thought this might be interesting for you. If you've ever watched any To Catch a Predator, but when I used to watch those I would always wonder what happened to the pedos. This popped up on my feed, was made 4 days ago.
This video will cover exactly what happened to the sick.
I'll watch that later. Thanks for the donation. Poogie Queef. Jimmy donated $2. If someone's really into working out, fitness, are there any good career paths one can take that can earn a living off? Take a guess, dude. You can be a personal trainer. You can be a influencer. You can write books. You can work with Hollywood celebrities. Yeah, there's ways to fucking make money if you're into fitness. Thanks for that donation, Jimmy.
Had some instances of perhaps equipment being vandalized or things like that. And like, let's be frank, if we're looking at this empirically, these uses of force have been the only thing that have slowed this project down, and people sitting in trees. Now, just to note, on December 15th, people were pepper sprayed, shot with rubber bullets, and forcibly taken out of trees to then be charged with domestic terrorism.
Yeah.
Right? And to be quite frank with you, I believe that people being forcibly yanked out of trees and being charged with domestic terrorism, just for holding a certain issue, or people that were being yanked out of a parking lot and then charged with domestic terrorism, is much more in line with the definition of terrorism by threatening people for taking a political stance than the people that are actually sitting in the trees minding their own business, right? So we're just seeing the asymmetry of who's allowed to make these calls. And so we're just seeing immense abuses of power at the same time that, I mean, let's be clear, they are showing you right now what they plan on doing with this facility, right? They're using overwhelming force to attack people, and there's not really one precedent of a police officer being hurt throughout this entire ordeal up until these very questionable circumstances around Tortuguita's death. God bless them. And then also, like, we have to keep in mind that especially like as we've moved forward with this movement and gained ground, the violence and the harassment has had an uptick.
Right.
And then also with that, they've essentially indiscriminately applied these charges to everybody. So what we have is significant abuses of force and indiscriminate charges, right, against people for virtually having some association with a political position. This is what happens in fascism. So like for us to like have this like some notion that somehow they're going to completely flip the script.
Well, like, especially the circumstances that are happening in Georgia, clearly, we're living in an oligarchy. So yeah, it's not too dissimilar from fascism.
And then use this facility to make police nicer. I mean, it's such a farce, but these are the things that even liberal politicians will try to convince themselves of, and it's never true.
You know, it's what is fascinating about what we're watching. Well, there's many things, and I do want to get to Tortuguita's killing, which, you know, conveniently was not on body cam, although there were cams there. This dynamic of peaceful protests that are taking place, really no threat to any living human being, anyways, and the force that is being brought out, and it is sort of, there is an irony that this force is being used to essentially develop a facility to train forces like this and presumably do the similar thing.
I'm telling you exactly what they're doing.
And the classification of domestic terrorists who are engaged in this. I remember, and if I'm not mistaken, it was in Georgia. That in the mid-aughts, there were vegans who were protesting a honey-baked ham facility, and they were labeled by the Department of Homeland Security as domestic terrorists. And it's as if we're watching, like, you know, these things that were, you know.
That is fucking bizarre. Dude, what the fuck?
Gamed out for vegans. And particularly, you know, the fact is, almost 20 years ago, the idea of vegans was I mean, there were vegetarians, but you know, there was no groundswell. It was not a mainstream thing to be a vegan necessarily at that time. And the idea that was almost like a dry run, and we're going to take that playbook and we're going to impose it on people who are literally just camping in the woods. I watched a clip from the Daily Show of like a visit to the encampment, and it was, there's bingo night, there's people
they're fucking vegans
camping
dude.
out. I mean, I've been to more threatening, you know, RV stops, frankly, in the past, and to mobilize 1,000 National Guardsmen just gives you an a taste of what's going on here. So explain the circumstances in which one of these protesters, Tortuguita, was killed by police in a raid on this camp.
Yes. Well, I think there's a couple of things that have to be noted about that instance. First, we have the issue of the inconsistency within perhaps 2 hours of the murder. One, we don't even know if Tortuguita could have been saved. There was never a chance, there was never a shot. Meanwhile, the entire highway was shut down to get this Georgia State trooper to the hospital. So we already have a lack of clarity there. Initially, it was said that folks were ambushed by this person and then they shot. Within 2 hours, the narrative changed to this person being approached in a tent and shooting. I don't know how you ambush someone while you're in a tent.
Right.
It doesn't add up. Then, in the initial items that were collected at the crime scene, there was no gun. Then, I guess some folks backtrack, maybe produce a registration that then comes up with the gun. Now, let's also keep something in mind. We do have precedent of the police pointing firearms at protesters and even using rubber bullets. So there are significant, threats to folks' lives that have already been out there and pointed weapons and weapons that were fired. So, if we live in a society where people can constantly make excuses for police officers that have very specialized training to handle crisis situations, to shoot kids, then I also think that there are some circumstances where someone who has a gun may adequately feel fear for their life and shoot back. These are the things that hit people.
Yeah, that's super fishy. That reeks of lies and bullshit. The police constantly lie all the time on police reports. Ryan Webb donating $2. Hey man, hope you're doing well. Unless you've reacted to it already, maybe could react to Jordan Peterson retweeting fetish porn. Yeah, he was retweeting cock milking porn. Yeah, video BDSM male milking dungeon. Claimed footage of human rights abuse in China. Yeah. Oh my god, what a fucking actual retard. I've seen that. I saw the Twitter post. Also retweeting this. Yeah, it was Shoe on Head, right? He didn't know Shoe on Head was trans. Oh wait, transgender activists outraged at Jordan Peterson's tweet against penile inversion vaginoplasty operation. Pure hatred and bigotry. And it's not a vagina, it's a hole for another man to fuck, that's it. What a fucking creep. Dude. Have you thought about logging off for a while? Like the first fucking response, like Jesus. What a fucking piece of shit. My god, dude. Yeah, Peterson needs to, just retire. He doesn't belong online. Thanks for the donation there, Ryan Webb. He retweeted something. It was a fake, detransition story with Shoe on Head. He's so stupid. People are literally laying out bait for him, and he just takes it.
Viscerally and sound very strange, but let's be very clear that somebody can feel in fear of their life and be wrongfully targeted by police and perhaps shoot a shot. And I don't think that I'm not.
Well, and by the way, that's happened. Police have showed up at the wrong house. So there will be a SWAT team or a police raid. They show up to the wrong house. They shoot at somebody or point a gun at somebody, and the dude who lives at the house doesn't know what's going on, doesn't know they're cops, and they shoot back. That's happened. There was a guy who actually had to go to fucking court over this. The police arrested him even though they raided the wrong house.
Does penis enlargement, work? Do you have any experiences with PE?
There's a number of surgeries and different things you can do. You can get fillers put in your penis that can be metabolized by your body so they don't last indefinitely, but basically they inject it with some kind of I don't know if it's some sort of oil, but it is metabolized by your body. They can last 6 months, a year, in some cases, and you have to just regularly keep getting it done. There's a surgery where they add fat tissue around your penis. There's a number of things. Yeah, it makes it larger. Whether or not it looks good, different story. Thanks for the donation, Flava. What the fuck was I talking about now? I totally forgot what I was saying because I was asked that stupid question. Oh yeah, there was a guy who was where the police raided the wrong house. They're supposed to raid the house, I think, right next to him. They were pointing laser beams from their weapons at the guy. He thought this was like a home invasion or something. He couldn't see anything. It was pitch black. And there was a laser pointed right at his chest. So he took a gun, fired a shot, and then he realized they were cops. They fucking beat him, arrested him for, like assault with a deadly weapon and shit, even though they raided the wrong house. He had to go to court, and a jury found that the police were fucking lying about every fucking major detail of the incident. The police claimed that they had never pointed their guns at him, but how would that be possible if, like, the laser was literally on his chest? Impossible. So he ended up winning that lawsuit, but he lost a ton of money. He lost his job because he was in prison for so long. It was so fucked. So yeah, police do this all the time. They put people in extremely dangerous situations where it's either reasonable for them to use force with a deadly weapon like a handgun, or it's necessary. Vegan Monk donated $2. Haven Gains just wanted to say thanks for crushing that pussy-ass nigga Garland Farms in the debate. Like always, you're a legend. Also, can't believe Carnivore Camarade made the excuse that you were taking steroids as a big, strong vegan. Lol, he's lame. He's a fucking dumbass. That fucking weak-ass little pussy doesn't even lift, and then he's, like, accusing other people of steroids. He can go fuck himself, dude. I bet he's the same kind of tard who thought, oh, yeah, Liver King's natural. So, but thanks for the donation, Vegan Monk.
Not going to get into the game where we just immediately dismiss somebody as bad because they defended themselves when the legitimate moral authority is
I can't believe what these crazy fucking wacko Christian MAGA fascist conservative Nazis in South Carolina want to do with women who have abortions.
Execute women who have abortions.
South Carolina wants to execute women who have abortions. Can they do that?
Shouldn't be the burden of every taxpayer to pay for abortion.
Well, the question is, who's going to stop them? These mopes, the Supreme Court backs states' rights, which is code for let them do it.
Execute women.
Yeah, that's fucked. By the way, that sets an extremely dangerous precedent if they were able to do that. If a woman has a miscarriage, she might be executed. So it's pretty fucked. I'd move out of that state. But yeah, the US has a problem with state versus federal law. They really need to just make a federal mandate on abortion and just legalize it federally and get rid of all this bullshit where states can do this. But thanks for the donation, Bendover.
certainly not in the hands of the police in so many of these circumstances where there are always shifting narratives. So the evidence around Tortuguita's murder is already very dicey. And I'm also not going to condemn them if they defended themselves.
And explain to me what has come out in terms of the body cam footage, because there's supposedly some footage that existed, but not with the people, not with the cops who approached the tent.
Well, yeah, it's all quite dicey.
Please react. You should make more content on this guy. He damages veganism every time he posts.
Jesus, what a piece of shit. Yeah, what a piece of shit. What do you want me to say? Thanks for the nation, Bezos.
Right? You had several different people from different different departments and entities that were in the woods that day, besides Georgia State Patrol. Georgia State Patrol has been under significant scrutiny for years because of their unwillingness to wear body cameras. And there have already been instances where they have shot people out of frame with no context and there's no explanation. In many cases where no one else fired a shot. So this has been an issue of contention where they will not wear them. And then
they coincidentally were the ones who were, I guess, like you could say, theoretically on the front lines. They were closest to the incident, and
they're highway patrol. Why are they in the forest?
Right.
We already have people with SWAT and militarized gear and camo. Like, I mean, there's no precedent of any police being attacked, but they had a huge bomb squad RV out there. I mean, I couldn't exaggerate how much militarized equipment they had around the forest in the past 8 weeks, and it's only expanding. Why do police need tanks? Like, what credible threat is there, like, in our population that would require that of police? It's too dicey. We're treating policing in this country as if it's some type of video game, constantly making like clear villains out of anybody that is pushing back against the will of a state that's becoming more paranoid and more dangerous, and killing people at will and then making excuses for it.
What? How many people now were living in the forest as a means of protecting the property from being developed, and how many are there now? Like, give me a sense of what's happening in the wake of this killing, and now I guess I guess it remains to be seen what the response is going to be to the state of emergency that's been called, and the mobilization of 1,000 troops. I mean, it's nuts to me. They're obviously trying to bring in sort of, this is almost a shock and awe campaign, as it were. What is the state of the?
Yeah, and this is just people camping out in a fucking forest doing a peaceful protest.
The protests that are going on, to the extent that you can, I imagine, like,
I can't. I was just going to tell you, I can't answer the first part of that question. And then also, I really can't answer the second part of that question, because here is the thing, right? Generally, people ask protesters how they are going to respond. But quite frankly, we never really dictate those terms because it's the state that's using the violence. Right. And I'm not going to condemn people for defending themselves. I'm not going to do it. And I mean, folks have just been so heavy-handed. And I think that people have the right to protest this encampment. We went through all like legal channels and discourse. And if we have any value in civil disobedience and human life, we would not expect that of people. Because what we have seen empirically is that all of these legal channels that were laid out for us have not worked. And then to ask people to be silently mowed down and treated as if they are nothing and if their humanity does not matter, I'm not going to do it. I have an anti-violent stance, not a non-violent stance, when people are forced with continued violence and force.
What my understanding is that these 380, 400 acres or so, somewhere around there, is in a sort of almost like a quasi no man's land in terms of jurisdiction, where as far as I can gather, there is some like sort of like it is in a weird sort of place jurisdictionally. And so once the city council refuses to basically, really have a legitimate process, 17 hours seems like a really truncated process. And particularly when it's hard to understand what the point of a public comment period is for when the public comments are
Catharsis.
overwhelmingly against it, and there's no response to that. Are there other avenues in which, on a political sense, for people who aren't there directly engaged in the protest, are there other avenues in which?
No, when they're talking about police having tanks, they're not talking about armored jeeps, trucks. They're not technically tanks, but they're basically like armored troop carriers, and some of them actually have a kind of mounted gun on them. So this is an example. It's more similar to a BTR or an APC, but this is what they mean by like police tank. I think this is one, yeah. So this is land rescue vehicle. There's again, these aren't technically tanks. They're more like armored troop carriers. And again, some of them do have mounted guns. So that's what people mean when they say police tank. They're not fucking jeeps. Ryan Webb donated $2. You've heard of these two? Police shoot guy coming out with hands up. Let me see. Shot by police. Something.
Whoa! What's going on? What the fuck? Jason, we just want to talk to you. Come outside. Yeah. Show us your hands. What did you? Oh, get on! Oh, get on! I'm shot!
The fuck? Yeah, that is fucking crazy. Remember, police are the only ones who should have firearms, even though they shoot innocent people all the time. And from a few years ago, police shot guy on his couch as they thought it was her apartment. Yeah, I remember that one. A cop was fucking drunk, breaks into the wrong apartment, and shoots a guy who's just lying on his couch. I'm not even sure if she ended up getting charged. Was she? I remember they were trying to get make it so she wouldn't be charged with anything. Thanks for the donation there, Ryan. Salman Ramirez $2 just casually repping out 900. Yeah, that guy, Jesus Oliveras, is insanely strong. That is a lot of fucking weight to rep out. I did 330 this morning for a set of 3. But 915 is a lot more. That's pretty crazy. Thanks for the donation, dude.
There can be a political address to this. And where would they be because of those?
She got 10 years. She really should have gotten more.
Jurisdictional questions.
It's all very dicey, to be honest with you. The Atlanta is technically an unincorporated DeKalb, but it's owned by the city of Atlanta. In terms of getting the approvals for the land disturbance permit, I think that is in the hands of DeKalb County in terms of who owns it and who could rescind the lease. That is the Atlanta City Council. So both of these entities should be held accountable. Meanwhile, it's already in court because you also have a part where we should not let this individual, Ryan Millsap, off the hook, because essentially he mowed down tons of land that he owned that he said that he did assessments on in order to properly build on it. Then he destroyed the land, realized that it was quasi-swampland and he couldn't build on it effectively. And then the city moved to swap that 40 acres with him to remove the public park that's, tangential to the Atlanta prison farm, right? And this is where there have been a lot of raids and attacks on individuals. And then they've been called, or they've had false charges placed against them. So you have like lots of weird land issues and the different municipal, state, county entities being in bed with corporate interests. So there's tons of weird that's happening here. Where it doesn't seem like the will of people is being represented at all. And there are multiple entities that should be held accountable for that. And while we're on the subject of land, let's not forget that this land is tied to the South River that already has significant issues with flooding. Now you're going to pave upwards of hundreds of acres of this land where you're already seeing flooding in this Black neighborhood that already has at least 66% of the pollution of all of the South River in this very condensed area where Black people live, and then nobody's doing anything about it. You already have a landfill. The Atlanta prison farm was initially shut down because of how many prisoners died because of the poisoned water. Now you're gonna have lead runoff from a shooting range. How bad is this going to be? And then meanwhile, the EPA specifically gave an exemption for this area where 400,000 residents that are about 80% Black live. And this is affecting their water supply. And then what we have is officials that will, make these symbolic stances against something like Jackson, Mississippi or Flint, Michigan, when we see it happening right now. Atlanta, although it has the second longest driver commute, doesn't have nearly the same problems with the air quality as Los Angeles. And that's deeply tied to our tree canopy, and it's being destroyed. This is the largest urban forest in the country that's in this Black neighborhood, and like large parts of it are in this Black neighborhood that's now being replaced for the largest.
Hey Vegan Gains, so I'm currently on training to lose weight. I have dropped my calorie intake. The question I'm wondering is, do I continue to progressive overload? And if so, should I increase weight weekly? Also my rep range is 8 to 12. You think that's good? Can you do an impression of Ben Shapiro?
Yeah, I'll do an impression of Ben Shapiro in just a moment. Thanks for the donation, dude. Yeah, so you should obviously incorporate progressive overload in your training, no matter what. If you're dieting, the only thing you have to worry about is making sure your mesocycle length doesn't get cut too short. So you may want to stick to exercises that have a better stimulus to fatigue ratio. So like maybe deadlift less, do more things like good mornings, and like hack presses and shit in place of shit like that. And the total amount of volume that you're going to be able to handle is going to be lower. So that's the only thing you're just going to have to manage better: fatigue. And if you can increase weight weekly, then yeah, do it. 8 to 12 reps is a good rep range if you're dieting. If you're dieting, you do want to stick to hypertrophy training. So you want to keep the volume high so that you can at least maintain muscle mass. It's also less fatiguing than doing strength training. So yeah, 8 to 12 is a good rep range. Hope that answers your question, Dilly Gains. Appreciate the donation. All right. Ugh. All right, Ben Shapiro impression. All right, now I've been asked to comment on the city of Atlanta making a cop city and having more training resources for the police. Now, I think this is a great idea. I think these protesters are out of their minds. They're probably anti-police. They're probably anti-government. They want to defund the police. Well, clearly what Atlanta needs is they need more law enforcement. They need to militarize their police force more. The murder rate is sky high, and the only way to deal with that is obviously with more police presence. There you go. Hope you enjoyed that impression, vegan linguist. Thanks
Militarized training facility in the country, perhaps the world, for police. Like, how tone deaf could these folks be? And I mean, how much clearer could the indications be that our elected officials are certainly not working for our
Matthew, what can folks outside of that area do to support the protests and the organizations that are working against this? There's some who are saying that this is going to be that it is developing into the next Standing Rock, where you had people all around the country who were going in support of local residents. We should say again, I mean, and you mentioned this, that this is also land that was essentially stolen from the Muskogee Creek people, and so what can folks who are outside, who are watching around the country, what can they do to support your organization and folks who are fighting against Cop City?
Don't worry too much about my organization now. We'll be all right. But there are some things that you should really pay attention to. Please watch the defense.
Do it again, please, Lamau. That was spot on.
All right, I will do it again. Now, for those of you who are saying that Cop City is an example of institutional racism, clearly it isn't. Clearly you do not understand history. Things like redlining have been banned since the 1970s. That doesn't exist anymore. There's no such thing as institutional racism. The reason why they're having to heavily militarize the police force and creating this Cop City is because it is simply the case that crime is sky high. Is it because there's a large black population? I have no idea. The fact is, though, there is a large amount of crime in this community. And there has to be something that's done about it, and the only way I can see anything being done about it is if they increase police presence. There you go. Thanks for the donation, vegan linguist.
In the Atlanta Forest page, on Instagram, watch the Stop Cop City page on Instagram, watch the Atlanta Solidarity Fund. What we're dealing with right now is maybe one or two of the folks that were arrested last week got bond, and it was $350,000. And it's because, I mean, this
makes no sense. This is crazy. Like Joe Biden or something needs to step in. This is just so insane.
Unconstitutional.
They're trying to keep people out. Yeah. They're trying to keep people.
They're trying to squeeze it because we've been, supporting folks down here through the Solidarity Fund to make sure that people that are fighting to preserve a livable world don't have too much financial strain on them, and they're essentially trying to bleed the fund. So please donate if you have the means. If you have influence, use it. This isn't one of those times where folks can sit on the sidelines and watch how things can play out. If you know anybody that has influence, pressure them, make the calls, and we need folks to show up. We really do. Let's dispel this outside agitator thing that will always come up, and the label of domestic terrorist. These are the same things that were said about Martin Luther King when he was in Chicago and he had his fancy PhD and moved to Alabama. These are the same things that were said about the Freedom Riders when they came to Mississippi. This is the same thing that al-Assad said in Syria, right, in 2011. to justify massive killings of people. So don't be scared. We need all the help that we can get. Atlanta is a city filled with, influential folks, especially, Black folks, people of culture and things. This is not the time to sit on the sidelines and protect your interests. This is not the time to cozy up to high people in high places. It's not okay. We need the support of people that have influence.
Yeah, that whole situation is fucking crazy.
Rate this landing 1 to 10.
Yeah, be careful. Don't worry.
Bank angle. Right angle check. Bank angle. Sink rate. Pull up. Pull up. Sink rate. Sink rate.
Well, they're gonna crash.
50. 40. 30. 20.
Yeah, no, that's
Wow, that was a fucking terrible pilot. Where the fuck? Dude, I'd be shitting my pants.
Yeah, be careful.
40. 30. 20.
Why didn't the instructor make him do, or whatever the fuck this is, why didn't they just do another pass? Just
Sink rate.
do another landing. Like, look at this.
50.
I'm not even a pilot, and I know this is fucked.
30. 20.
Dude. Oh my god. Fucking tired.
Increasing fallout following the historic collapse of Silicon Valley Bank.
Are you an Etsy seller and didn't get paid today? Neither did I.
The demise of the nation's 16th largest bank, and once a titan in the world of tech startups, wreaking havoc, including for sellers who use e-commerce site Etsy. The company acknowledging some users aren't getting paid because it distributed money through SVB.
Silicon Valley Bank, where many tech startups had deposited their money and did their banking, collapsed over the weekend and is now taken over by the FDIC. The federal government has stated that all depositors will be made whole, including those who had more than the FDIC insured $250,000 deposited in the bank. And I'll explain why they made that decision in just a moment, including why the bank collapsed in the first place. Now, it's important to understand that there's a difference between taking care of the depositors and bailouts for the investors for the bank. There will be no bailouts for the investors for the bank, okay? This only has to do with companies that had deposited money into the bank, which has now collapsed. So this was done to prevent more bank runs and a complete collapse of the US banking system. But what went wrong in the first place? Why did the bank collapse? Well, last week, Silicon Valley Bank announced that it had sold some government bonds, okay? So SVB said it had sold 21 billion in securities at a loss of about 1.8 billion after tax. It also set out to raise about 2.25 billion in capital. Now, what happens with banks typically is depositors deposit money into the bank, and then the bank invests that money. Now, in this case, SVB decided to invest its money in what is typically thought of as safe investments, right? Government bonds. But when interest rates went up, the value of those bonds went down. And as tech companies needed money and were withdrawing money, Silicon Valley Bank did not have the liquidity necessary to provide the cash for the withdrawals. So that is why they had to sell those government bonds in order to have the capital necessary to provide the money that the depositors wanted through their withdrawals. I have more details on this and what went wrong in just a moment, but Cenk, so far, any thoughts?
Okay. Yeah, that is nothing like what fucking Frank explained.
Kanye came out, he was more extreme than Fuentes was on almost everything. And then I look like Fuentes' little group of people got real mad at another.
Fuentes get unsuspended off Twitter for one day and then get deleted the next day. And we never got any kind of confirmation, right, about what he did or said.
Something. We have no idea who's running these
Who's in charge of making the decision?
I don't even think he tweeted. It was something he said
it some intern in India?
Yeah.
Like, what is it?
It's a series of zeros and ones and zeros. It's all fucking automatic.
It's horrifying.
These days.
It's horrifying.
It's all automatic.
That's the thing that scares me the most is that I don't even think these decisions are being made by human beings. They're running the transcript of our show through an algorithm. If the robot...
What is he talking about? He got banned off of Twitter for a tweet he made making some sort of anti-Semitic remark.
Picks up too many red flag words, it goes, I'm going to take your livelihood away.
Okay, but
that is what happens. I don't know if you're joking.
No, but
that is
but then when you escalate it, shouldn't does a real person look at it then?
A real person looks and makes sure that everything ran correctly.
Yeah,
and then that's
make sure the robot.
There are thousands of active anti-Fuentes people on the internet who I guarantee were watching any Spaces account that he was on Twitter and definitely reporting anything that he said that was even slightly edgy. So for him, it's like it's not like he's just getting hit with the random consequences of the algorithm. He's got fucking Media Matters monitoring every move he makes as soon as he gets back on Twitter, and him getting deleted right away is a huge W for them, right?
Can we talk about all these people that wanted to boycott the Harry Potter game? We're never going to play it anyway. Where are all these Elon haters? Why the these lefties all boycott Twitter and stop using it? Why
well, they went to Mastodon before they realized that it sucks and is full of child pornography. And
they all came back to Twitter. I just think it's lame. If you want to boycott something, give up something that's actually hard to give up. You are obsessed with Twitter. You know that Elon, who's basically Hitler 2.0 to you guys in an electric car instead of a Volkswagen, now you guys are supporting all of Twitter and all of Elon's advertising shit by tweeting all day. I don't know. It seems kind of
because you're football. Right. Oh yeah,
no, because it would have been hard for them to give it up, but they can avoid playing the video game.
They're like the kids that gave up like diet soda for Lent or some shit or some pop that you never drank.
It's like when Nickelodeon had the big help and you had to call into the hotline and pledge hours to clean up your community, and I would just call in and be like 1 billion hours and hang up the phone.
What a
I spent a lot of time hating on what Elon's done with the verification system on Twitter, which I think is totally fair. But the other day, I had the realization that, it completely makes sense for me to pay for the verification Twitter Blue thing on my porn account, Plug Talk, because you get better amplification. I noticed that when I look at my For You tab on Twitter, that I'm seeing people with Twitter Blue over and over and over and like not particularly popular posts. So it's not the kind of shit they normally show you where it'll show me something from somebody I don't even follow that's really viral, but it shows you Twitter Blue stuff nonstop. So it's just a purely pragmatic thing, even though I think that what he's done with the verification has been a disaster. It still just makes sense to pay for it.
And everybody's following suit. Facebook's doing it, right? Instagram.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I'll probably end up paying on there too.
It's one of those things where they realize, like, why leave money on the table? Everybody's obsessed with our service. You can probably charge $100 to have your profile blink and scream rainbow noises.
Well, like all they had to say was you get access to customer support on Instagram if you pay $12 a month or whatever, because I know infinite people on Instagram that have just been dying for some kind of customer support for all these years.
Yeah.
But the problem with social media companies is it just doesn't make sense business-wise for them to fucking pay.
No, it's horrifying. They make decisions without ever consulting you or telling you what you did wrong.
Right.
You get strikes on your account. For YouTube, the only way to contact them is to tweet at a random account on Twitter. You're like, this is your official customer services on Twitter? Why is it
works
not on?
really well too.
And it does.
And it's funny because I'll have like a 620,000 sub YouTube channel, and if I get dinged, I'm like, but then I'll go to like 100,000 follower Twitter account, and I have like, the CEO of YouTube on their knees, like, how can we help you? Yeah, it's like that's kind of weird that I have to go to a whole other social media.
It makes
thing.
no sense. It's crazy. It's the unbearable silence of our technological overlords that they have complete control. They don't tell us what the rules are. And when you go, well, can I just like talk to? I just want to talk to a human being. I just want to know there's someone there. And they're like, we can't give you.
But
that.
in retrospect, now that we understand that the premium user experience on every social network is going to involve you paying like $10 or $15 a month, it does seem like kind of a big ask. I'm using the service completely for free, and I'm demanding customer service as soon as anything goes wrong. Once you're paying money, if they won't give you like access to somebody who's going to tell you why your Instagram got deleted, that seems insane. So, I mean, it's basically going to create like a caste system where people who pay are going to be able to get.
Yeah, I mean, well, it makes no sense.
Reform, blah, blah, blah. She's like, oh, okay, here's your account back. And I'm like,
that got you banned off Twitter?
Yeah.
But you've returned, right?
Yeah, I got, thanks to Elon.
Really? He's who got you back on the platform?
Not him personally.
But you were
I don't know.
It was
Maybe
him personally.
It might have been.
I think in my case, he personally intervened. I think he knew.
Yeah, what the I've been following you for a while, and then I didn't realize that you had been deleted until you returned. And
That's
I was
the
just
worst
like,
part.
oh shit, like I haven't seen that little profile picture in a long ass time.
Yeah, you just fall off the face of the earth.
Yeah.
That's the worst thing about Twitter is that like it really is like the congregation point where I have all these contacts and I literally just disappeared and then people go, "Oh, I didn't even notice you were gone."
Right,
like,
because
I know it's
we
fucking
felt the same way
horrifying.
about Donald Trump.
Yeah.
When that
Yeah.
mother disappeared off Twitter, I was like, does he even exist anymore? And
Is
you're like,
he
oh
real?
yeah, I remember that guy.
Was he ever real?
And that was the strongest man in the history of the planet.
Yeah.
Billionaire plus United States president. He's on.
It's crazy.
Holy
Because you have however many like hardcore fans that are going to follow you between platforms. And that's why when you see something like Fuentes' audience that has managed to keep track of him for all these years, it's kind of incredible. But, you know, realistically, like
But
somebody
he has
like,
to devote all his energy to that.
yeah, but somebody
You know?
like me who kind of like just followed you on Twitter one day on a whim and didn't really think that much about it, it's like that realistically it's
who has a principled position on deplatforming. And I think that in almost no circumstances should somebody be deplatformed, save for like imminent threat to like life, right? Somebody's like trying to murder somebody, whatever. And I think it's been my position for roughly the past, like, I think.
I just watched your debate with Garland Farms. You got utterly destroyed, bro.
You're wrong, but thanks for the donation, Garland Farms.
I want to say 3 or 4 years, 4 or 5 years, about. And Fuentes' little group of people got real mad at another ex-friend of mine who goes by the name Mr. Girl. And yeah, they got him spam reported his shit. And I basically told Fuentes, like, listen, we do funny content. Obviously, the streams are amazing or whatever, but like, you have to like super crack down on this shit. And he was like very tepid. He's like, oh, well, I don't even think we reported him. And like, oh, here's a clip from you in 2017 saying that you're for deplatforming. I was like, okay, well, dude. So I don't want to, I'm like I try to like, there are some cultural values that I feel very strongly about that I enforce like really hardcore. And one of that is that deplatforming shit. If I see people in my community even joke about it, they get and like,
so
we don't do any
you
of that
went
shit.
real hard for Mr. Girl for him to then launch an investigation into you.
Pretty weird, isn't it? I will say though,
what is the status of the investigation?
The
Did we
status
ever
is,
find out?
as of yesterday, he contacted like over 50 women that some that I even forgotten and he said he doesn't have a single person that wants to come forward with a rape allegation. So I beat the rape charges, okay?
Wow.
Is he going to do like a This Is Your Life in Pussy for us? He's got all this information.
I'm chatting with a girl on my stream, and she's like, oh, I just got a DM from Mr. Girl asking if we're still platonic. Like, fucking obsessed. Yeah, it's insane.
Do you think Mr. Girl should have been banned?
No, I don't think so. Absolutely not.
What's the worst thing he ever did on the platform? Because I never thought, I mean, I could see how the algorithm probably wouldn't have liked the I'm a pedophile song, but, you know.
Well, as far as I understand, the reason he got banned was it was a video where he included a scene from a movie where it looks like somebody's sucking.
Really?
But it was actually, what's the movie where like he has like a chicken wing hanging out of his pants and the girl like
I don't
eats
remember.
the chicken wing? So it wasn't actually pornographic,
Wow.
but apparently Fuentes people were like, hey, maybe we can get this over on the censors and just mass reported it as pornographic content. So he got banned because YouTube thought he was posting porn and refuses to look at what the actual clip is and investigate it.
Damn, we need Elon to buy YouTube so we can get Mr. Girl back on the platform.
Or we just need an alternate video platform.
You don't think Rumble's it?
It could be if they,
Rumble
get their
sucks.
shit together.
100 million doesn't
that's
go
the
very
problem.
far.
That's
I've
no,
looked at
100
it.
million does not go that
It
far.
looks like the way websites looked like 15 years ago.
That being said,
Really
Rumble,
gross.
we're down for an exclusivity deal anytime.
Yeah, let me take a look at Rumble. It reminds me of what's that really old fucking streaming site that I don't think exists anymore? Can't remember, but yeah, it does look old.
Because I know you've been handing them
Daily
out.
Motion,
We love
yeah.
Rumble.
I'll
We
make
love
some
it.
alt-right
Daily
content
Motion.
for Rumble.
They don't take alt-right content. They take alt-right content. I'm just
It
kidding.
has to be alt.
It's got to be alt, man.
Yeah,
All
I
they
don't
had to
know.
do was rip off YouTube, and it looks like a disaster. The interface.
It looks like YouTube 20 years ago. It looks
Yeah.
like something.
Good academic ways to engage with really complicated and nuanced conversations about like racism and everything. And I think it's good to look at power structures and to analyze it and everything. But sometimes I always do this in debates when I'm having a conversation with somebody. Sometimes like, okay, hold on. Let's take a step back. like really far back in the macro level, like what the f are we arguing for right now? Because sometimes when you take a step back from a conversation, like, okay, well, what am I actually arguing for? You realize, like, I think something is getting up right now because, like, I'm in a conversation where I'm arguing that it's okay to be racist against a certain group of people because maybe their ancestors did something bad. Like when you back up and you macro analyze things, I think you start to see like, okay, it's like refocus, because you can use academic definitions to get almost anywhere in a conversation, and it gets really, really weird at some point in time.
What was going through your head when Lex Friedman was grilling you about saying?
Hi. Ski, 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 SRK, 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 ski, 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 SRK, ski, 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 ski.
Thanks for that faux hammer. Appreciate the donation, dude.
I just thought it was such a dumb conversation.
I was like,
You're supposed to say it was a
well, you were kind of like not engaging and just sort of like, okay, that's your opinion. All right.
I don't fucking care about any of this shit.
That is your actual hard set. Then they're trying to do all this before you actually start the set. So they do that, or they sit back and they put the weight up and they're here, and then they're pressing, then they're trying to do all this extra stuff, or they're trying to get themselves in position. Time from floor to core, elbows out, push.
I think I'm just gonna end the stream early. I'm tired, and I should probably get my sleep schedule back to normal. But should be streaming tomorrow night. I think should be able to fix my bike tomorrow too, but nighty night, everybody. Next week we'll also be able to play fucking Resident Evil 4, but nighty night, everybody. Big thanks to everybody donating Streamlabs. Really appreciate it. Take care.